Looks like you're speaking, but we
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners' third budget work session. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. For those presenting today, please turn your mic on when you begin speaking and off when you've completed your remarks. And for all presenters, please state your name for the record before speaking or responding to questions. Our first item is a briefing on the District Attorney's Office. So I'd like to welcome DA Nathan Vasquez and turn things over to him.
Well, good morning, Chair and Commissioners. And for the record, my name is Nathan Vasquez. I'm the District Attorney for Multnomah County. Thank you for having us. It's a privilege to present the FY 2027 budget for the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. I'm joined by Jess Eden, our Business Services Manager, along with my Chief Deputy District Attorneys for each of their divisions, as well as Mr. Mike Delman, who will be presenting here in a moment. Today we'll walk through the work of our office and how we support victims, balance accountability with opportunities for change, and help prevent future harm, and why sustaining this work matters for this community. We'll hear directly from people doing this work every day, and we'll outline how we've approached our budget decisions. We've also incorporated a few short videos from our staff, system partners, and individuals impacted by this work to share real experiences. We recognize the county is facing difficult financial decisions, and we've approached this budget with that in mind, focusing on core responsibilities and making disciplined choices about where we're prioritizing our resources. At the same time, we want to be clear about what's at stake. Over the past year, this community has made real progress in the area of public safety. This progress reflects coordinated work across systems, and it's something we don't want to lose ground on. The proposed cuts are not abstract. They affect experienced attorneys and dedicated staff members who ensure cases move forward, victims are supported, and public safety is upheld. These cuts will result in the loss of union prosecutor and staff positions essential to carry out these core functions. These are your county employees doing essential core county functions each day. If we eliminate these positions, it will strain an already overburdened system, cause increased caseloads, slow the administration of justice, eliminate the prosecution of certain cases, and ultimately, it will impact the community's confidence in our ability to do this work. Next slide, please. I'll briefly walk through our agenda today. We'll start with an overview of our values, how our office fits within the county's broader safety net system, and our role in supporting community well-being. Then we'll cover our budget approach and key priorities. From there, we'll walk through each of our divisions. You'll hear directly from our chief deputies along with short videos that will help bring this work to life. We'll close with questions, and I'm planning hopefully to leave about 20 to 30 minutes for that. In a moment, I'll turn it over to the MCDA Budget Advisory Committee Chair, Mike Delman. Before I do, I want to thank our CBAC. We've appreciated the time and thought that they've put in reviewing our work and proposed budget. They've engaged deeply, asked important questions, and provided meaningful feedback on our priorities and the challenges we're facing. Mike?
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to share the perspective of the MCDA Community Budget Advisory Committee. My name is Mike Delman. As a committee, our recommendations were guided by a set of core values. We focused on the importance of public safety, equitable access to justice, responsible stewardship of public resources, and the long-term sustainability of services, both for the community and for the District Attorney's Office. Based on those values, we identified several priorities for funding. We saw strong importance in maintaining support for East County services, including the Access Attorney Program. We also discussed the important role additional senior legal assistants could play in operational efficiencies and the importance of continuing work related to civil commitments. At the same time, we had key concerns. One of the most consistent themes was the risk of losing ground in areas where progress has been made. We also discussed the challenge of having to make decisions between competing priorities where values and practical constraints don't always align. Overall, we appreciated the opportunity to engage with the office, ask questions, and provide input. We hope this perspective is helpful as you consider the proposed budget. On behalf of the CBAC, I also want to thank the business manager, Jessica Eden, for her dedication and patience with a very diverse committee to get this work done on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Can we see the next slide, please? Before we walk through our divisions, we want to briefly ground this presentation in our vision and values. These guide how we approach the work every day, how we support victims, balance accountability with opportunities for change, and make decisions about how to use limited resources. They also shape how we think about our role within the broader system and the community we serve. Next slide, please. I want to start by saying how much I really appreciate this photo. It captures what I see every day in this office, a group of people who are deeply committed to the work and to this community. They come in on evenings, weekends, and early in the morning. Our vision is grounded in that. We've worked to build a justice system that supports victims, applies the law fairly, and earns public trust. You'll hear me refer to this oftentimes, both here and in the community, as compassionate accountability. It is a guiding value of this office. That means showing up with professionalism, good judgment, and a clear sense of responsibility for the work and the outcomes of our work. Now, in the next slide, equity is an important part of how we approach this work. It shows up in how we operate as an organization and how we serve the public. I'm proud to say our equity manager is here today to support us. But this starts with our workforce, making sure people have the training, support, and expectations they need to succeed, building a diverse and healthy team. Another part is recognizing the impacts of crime, that it's not felt evenly, and being mindful of what that means for individuals, neighborhoods, and small businesses, particularly for low-income households, communities of color, and people experiencing homelessness, who sadly are disproportionately represented as victims. Equity means the county being there for those individuals as well. It extends to how people experience the system, making sure victims and witnesses have access to support, information, and a process they can safely engage in. And ultimately, it comes down to how we make decisions, apply the law fairly, consistently, and transparently, while acknowledging the historical shortcomings of the justice system. All right, the next slide. This slide reflects how we think about community well-being and how our work fits within the broader county's mission. Community well-being is supported by multiple systems working together. One is, of course, health and human services, and then we also have housing and economic stability and public safety, each playing a distinct and critical role. The county has made significant investments in prevention, stability, and opportunity through its health, housing, and human service systems, and that work is essential. Public safety plays a different role, but is a part of that same mission. Our responsibility is to respond when harm occurs, supporting victims, balancing accountability with opportunities for change. That is at the heart of compassionate accountability, and working towards restoration and resolution of those matters. When these systems are coordinated and aligned, we are stronger and we get stronger outcomes for our community. When they are not, the impacts often show up in the justice system. That is why you see me so eager to ensure public safety is a part of conversations across our systems. It's all right. Next slide, please. Now, as we get into the budget, we'll ask for the next slide. And our budget approach this year is grounded in protecting core public safety functions and sustaining the progress we've made, particularly in reducing violent crime and improving livability. At its core, this is also an equity issue. The people most impacted by crime are often those with the fewest resources: individuals, families, and small businesses in communities that experience a disproportionate share of the harm. Having the kind of compassionate, effective justice system this county wants requires that it will be adequately resourced to do the work. Our focus is on supporting victims, handling cases efficiently and effectively, and ensuring the system is responsive to the people who rely on it most. We are also committed to working with justice-involved individuals in our treatment courts, specifically to help them become healthy and productive members of our community to reach their full potential. We also recognize the connection between public safety and economic vitality. When crime is reduced and cases are resolved in a timely way, it supports the stability of neighborhoods, businesses, and the broader community. All of this is a part of the county's broader safety net system. These systems are interconnected, and when they are working together, they support the tax base that makes county services possible. In a constrained budget environment, that means prioritizing the work that most directly supports victims, reduces harm, and sustains these outcomes. It also means making real trade-offs, scaling back on some areas so we can maintain capacity in core functions we are mandated to carry out by state law. Jess, do you want to go through the numbers?
Absolutely. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Jess Eden, MCDA's Business Services Manager. I use she, her pronouns. The proposed budget is increasing by approximately $400,000 or 0.6% from the fiscal year 26 adopted budget. As you know, after we account for increased costs from year to year, a flat budget effectively means a reduction in the level of service we can provide, as reflected in the overall decrease of 14.5 FTE. Next slide, please. In addition to the 5% general fund constraint that reduces MCDA's budget by $2.3 million, our current service level is further impacted by the loss of grants, one-time resources previously invested in programming, such as the auto and retail theft task forces, and loss of support from community partners. We will be submitting a technical amendment in the next phase of the budget to reflect an additional reduction of over $700,000 and 4 FTE due to a reduction in funding from TriMet. As you can see from this slide, the total reductions included in the proposed budget amount to $3.5 million and nearly 18 FTE. When we include the forthcoming amendment, that total changes to $4.2 million or over 7% and nearly 22 FTE, which is over 9% of our workforce. Next slide, please. We can see the funding composition of our fiscal year 27 budget shows a decrease in general funds before our additional reduction amendment and an overall increase in Fed state funding. The increase in Fed state funding is owed to new grant awards to support treatment court work related to driving under the influence of intoxicants. Next slide, please. Our staffing levels have steadily increased since the pandemic, which has allowed our office to make meaningful improvements in community safety following several years of elevated violence and system strain. We saw a slight loss of staffing in fiscal year 26, and we are facing a substantial loss in fiscal year 27. Sustaining the progress made on public safety and livability requires maintaining service capacity. Next slide, please. The vast majority of our budget is in personnel, which accounts for almost 85%, followed closely by internal services, which is 10%. That leaves just over 5% for materials and supplies and contractual services. This composition means that reductions can only be taken in personnel, which is why decreases directly impact things like caseload size, targeted interventions, and prosecuting certain crime types. Next slide, and I will turn it back over to DA Vasquez.
There we go. We're going to be walking through the budget division by division, and you'll hear from our chief deputies for each of those. But before we do that, I want to briefly highlight some updates to our division and program names. As you see here, we have updated our division names, and on the following slide, you'll see similar how underneath those divisions, some of the program names have been updated as well. These changes are primarily about clarity. This effort is purely designed to increase transparency and to just be more descriptive, change things like Division 1 to Family, Justice, and Community Impact. So just trying to be clear. All right, next slide. And here you're going to see very similar program name changes that more closely align with the work that's being done within those units, changing things like multidisciplinary team to the child abuse unit. Next slide, please. Jess.
We have five divisions, with the smallest share of resources being in administration. The office is centered investing in direct service programming that progresses the county's goal for a safe and just community, with the most resource-intensive being diversion and strategic prosecution and the Justice, Integrity, and Victim Services divisions. Next slide.
The Administration Division supports the core operations of the office and ensures the rest of the organization can function effectively. This includes finance, human resources, information technology, and administrative support, as well as coordination across divisions. The division also plays a key role in policy, developing, implementing, and adapting policies in response to a changing legal environment and evolving requirements. In addition to it supports coordination and engagement with county departments and system partners to ensure alignment and effective operation across the broader system. Oftentimes, you'll see individuals like my Chief of Staff, Adam Brown, working with county units to make sure we're all working together. While much of this work happens behind the scenes, it's essential to maintaining performance, supporting staff, and ensuring cases can be handled in a timely, consistent, and compliant way. Next slide, please.
As part of the fiscal year 27 budget process, the Administration Division was restructured, removing direct service programs that are now part of Justice, Integrity, and Victim Services, which is why you see such a steep decline in the size of this division. However, we also reallocated resources dedicated to administrative positions and shifted that funding to invest in senior legal assistants that were dispersed throughout 3 of our other divisions. And administration is losing 1 FTE as part of general fund reductions. Next slide, please.
The Administration Division focuses on making sure the office has people, responsiveness, and systems in place to operate effectively. This starts with our workforce. This is a very specialized work that we are engaged in, and we've been focused on improving hiring, training, and support to build a stable and capable team. At the same time, we're continuing to modernize our systems and workflows. That includes improving how we integrate with partner agencies and how information is shared across the system so cases can move more efficiently and accurately. We're also operating in a legal environment that continues to change. Recent court decisions, including the Roberts decision, required us to adjust how we manage cases and timelines, and to do that consistently across the office. And finally, external factors, particularly the public defense crisis, continue to affect how cases move through the system. Our role is to coordinate and prioritize work to manage those impacts and maintain progress in public safety. Next slide, please. Before we walk through the performance slides, I want to briefly frame how we think about performance in the Administration Division. You'll see throughout the presentation we've worked to connect our budget decisions to measurable outcomes. In administration, our role is to support the people, systems, and coordination that allows the rest of the office to function effectively. Because of that, we're measuring performance using key indicators the county already relies on. Things like supervision and communication and employees' sense of belonging. Supervision and communication reflects how well leadership is setting expectations, coordinating work, and ensuring staff have the information they need to do their jobs. We've seen steady improvement in this area and are continuing to build on that because stronger communication is a foundation to everything else we do. Next slide. This is an area that I'm particularly proud of. We've also tracked employee belonging, which we know is a priority for the county and for this board. Belonging reflects whether staff feel respected, supported, and able to contribute meaningfully to the work. This has a direct impact on retention, stability, and overall performance, especially in a high-demand environment like ours. We've seen improvement in this area, and we're continuing to focus on it because a stable and supportive workforce is essential to delivering consistent, high-quality service the community expects from the public and safety system. Next slide, please.
The Administration Division is losing a finance specialist senior position that supports core financial functions while serving as backup for other team members. Eliminating this role reduces redundancy and internal capacity, but preserves prosecutorial services, aligning with our priority to protect direct service. As I mentioned before, we eliminated a division director position through an internal reallocation to fund senior legal assistant positions that were ultimately accepted for general fund constraint. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Todd Jackson, who will tell you about the Violent Crimes Division.
Thank you, Jess. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. My name is Todd Jackson, and I serve as the Chief Deputy over the Violent Crimes Division of the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. This division handles some of the most serious and complex criminal cases in this county, organized across 3 highly specialized units. The Robbery, Traffic, and Guns Unit prosecutes a wide spectrum of violent and high-risk offenses, including robberies and residential burglaries, vehicular homicides and injury hit-and-runs, firearms-related crimes, arson, and cases involving animal abuse. Prosecutors here handle incidents with far-reaching impacts on victims, families, and neighborhoods. The Assault and Sex Crimes Unit prosecutes crimes that are intensely sensitive and deeply personal. Prosecutors here handle cases of felony-level sexual violence and serious felony assaults involving interpersonal violence. The cases are emotionally charged and frequently require a trauma-informed approach to supporting victims and accountability. Finally, our Homicide Unit is dedicated entirely to prosecuting intentional murder cases. These prosecutors respond around the clock to homicide scenes, coordinate with law enforcement, guide investigations, and ultimately carry some of the weightiest responsibilities in our justice system. Jess will now walk through the operating budget and FTE for the division.
The Violent Crimes Division has had steady staffing year over year, and the marginal increase in funding is owed entirely to rising personnel costs. Stable staffing has supported this division's ability to make meaningful progress in terms of violent crime in our community, which Chief Jackson can speak more to now.
Next slide, please. Thank you. The cases in the Violent Crimes Division involve significant challenges, supporting victims and families in acute trauma, coordinating reluctant or vulnerable witnesses, and managing large and increasingly complex bodies of evidence. This work is difficult to describe without sounding melodramatic, but it is the reality our staff face every day. They are routinely exposed to direct and vicarious trauma, which increases the risk of burnout and requires strong support, resilience, and emotional fortitude. Despite these challenges, the division remains committed to supporting victims and ensuring cases are handled thoroughly, fairly, and consistently. When appropriate, that includes identifying structured alternatives to incarceration. Multnomah County is somewhat unique in offering a treatment court option for certain violent felonies. Programs like the STEP Court provide intensive supervision and access to treatment, housing, and employment, promoting accountability while reducing future harm. You will now see a brief video featuring Devin Franklin, one of our Homicide Unit Deputy District Attorneys, discussing her passion for this work, and Sierra Ellis from Ceasefire, highlighting our partnership in addressing gun violence.
I deal with people, mostly families, who've gone through the worst experience that anyone could ever imagine, and quite honestly, an experience that nobody should ever have to go through. And so I feel my role is not only prosecuting and holding somebody accountable for causing that kind of harm, but also a large part of my job is supporting the families through this experience. The criminal justice system is difficult to understand, even when you're in it sometimes. So families who go through this really need some additional support, just explaining what the process is, and then kind of walking them through it day by day. I generally will give at least the primary point of contact in each family my work cell number. You know, in the last, I would say in the last week, I've gotten 2 texts from prior cases that have been closed out, including I have some domestic violence cases where I really connected with those victims, and I will hear from them like maybe once a month still, and those resolved like 4 or 5 years ago. And people are often surprised to hear that we, in the homicide unit at least, go to the scenes, and we're there the same amount of time that the detectives are there. So people are genuinely surprised to hear that we're that involved. And I often explain that that's not the case for every prosecutor's office. But to me, I think it's an immense tool. We know our cases inside and out because we've been involved in it from the very start.
Ceasefire is a gun violence reduction strategy, and so it means a whole host of things. It's about coordination, it's about collaboration, and really it's about saving lives for those who are at the highest risk of gun violence and reducing trauma overall for our community, especially those who are most impacted by gun violence. Our relationship with the District Attorney's Office is extremely important because they help guide some of that work, so we're not operating in darkness around someone's incident that may happen. We don't want to see people harmed, and we don't want to see people incarcerated, but sometimes there needs to be accountability, and being able to have those frank conversations around that accountability is extremely important. Also around the services we might be able to provide. So blending that information, blending those relationships, and making sure that we're all working together is crucial. It is working. I'm proud of the work. We are seeing great results from the collaboration with everyone involved. And so when you see such great reductions, people are like, well, what's working? It's like, well, the system that we built, the relationships that we built, my ability to pick up a phone call and be like, hey, how can we help this person? Or, this is a big deal, we need to take care of it. It's working, and you can see it.
My name is Michelle Thomas.
Okay. These partnerships are critical to a functioning public safety system. And building on the strength of these partnerships, we can report, as you can see here, that violent felony issuance rates are now at their highest point in 5 years, reflecting stronger case development, improved coordination with law enforcement. Better investigations lead to stronger prosecutions, greater accountability, and safer, more stable communities. Next slide, please.
Before you move on,
Yes.
just this is more of a clarification. I'm just wondering, for the non-lawyers and the non-participants in the system, explain what case issuance rates, what that means. So they look like they've gone up.
Sure. So case issuance rates reflect the rate at which we are able to issue cases that are referred into the District Attorney's Office for prosecution. Sometimes when cases have an incomplete investigation or other issues related to our ability to move forward, those cases will be declined for prosecution. The fact that these cases are being referred with more complete, thorough investigations, stronger investigations, results in higher issuance rates, our ability to move forward on more cases.
So those are cases coming from local law enforcement?
Correct, yes.
Thanks.
All right, next slide, please. Thank you. While issuance rates for violent felonies are at a 5-year high, we are simultaneously seeing a downward trend in reported violent felony incidents. This combination, stronger case development alongside reduced reported violence, shows that targeted public safety investments are producing clear, measurable, countywide benefits. Next slide, please. We're seeing some of the clearest impacts of recent public safety investments in our homicide trends. After the pandemic, Multnomah County's homicide rate rose to 4 times the 20-year average, an unprecedented and alarming spike. Over the past 2 years, those rates have fallen significantly, though they remain more than double historical levels. This trajectory shows that while progress is real, the drivers of violent crime have not fully subsided. Continued consistent investment is essential to sustain these gains. Pulling back now risks reversing the progress made and returning the county to a far more dangerous condition.
Next slide, please.
I want to briefly highlight the reduction in senior legal assistant positions across the office, which includes one in the Violent Crimes Division, one in Family Justice and Community Impact Division, and one in Diversion and Strategic Prosecution Division. These positions were created through an intentional internal reallocation of resources, including the elimination of a division director position in the Administration Division to strengthen our legal support structure. The goal was to align work more effectively, allowing attorneys to focus on higher-level legal responsibilities while trained support staff handle case preparation and administrative functions. That not only improves efficiency and supports timeliness, but it also creates more meaningful and sustainable roles across our office. That approach increases our overall capacity to manage caseloads and helps staff stay focused on the work they're best positioned to do. Reducing these positions moves us further away from that model. It shifts work back onto attorneys and creates additional pressure on case processing and timeline. Chief Amanda Nadel will now talk with you about the Family Justice and Community Impact Division. Next slide.
Thanks, Jess. Good morning, Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Amanda Nadel. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm the Chief Deputy District Attorney overseeing our Family Justice and Community Impact Division. This division is comprised of 4 units. First, our Child Abuse Unit, which is responsible for the prosecution of all child sexual and physical abuse cases, child homicides, and cases in which children have been seriously injured or killed as a result of exposure to controlled substances. Additionally, DDAs working in our Child Abuse Unit appear in juvenile court in child dependency matters representing Multnomah County. Our Domestic Violence Unit prosecutes instances of violence, both misdemeanors and felonies, as well as violation of restraining order cases where those offenses are committed between family or household members or between intimate partners. Our Juvenile Unit prosecutes felonies and certain misdemeanors committed by youth who are under the age of 18. And finally, our Misdemeanor Trial Unit handles the prosecution of all misdemeanor offenses except domestic violence cases. This includes handling cases assigned to the East County Courthouse in Gresham. Jess will now describe the operating budget and FTE for the Family Justice and Community Impact Division. Next slide, please.
Thank you. The operating budget for Family Justice and Community Impact is growing by approximately 7% and 2 FTE in fiscal year 27. Half the budgetary increase is due to rising personnel costs for existing positions across programs in this division, and the remainder is primarily due to moving 2 legal staff positions to align in the budget with operations. I'll now turn it back to Chief Nadel to further discuss her division's work. Next slide, please.
The work in this division is complex and requires a high level of specialization. Our staff are handling cases involving family violence and youth, where the dynamics are often ongoing and the stakes are high. That requires not just legal expertise, but training, support, and resilience to do the work well and consistently. We're also seeing continued challenges related to youth violence, which requires a coordinated approach, both in how we prosecute the cases and how we work with partners to interrupt longer-term patterns. At the same time, victim engagement remains a core part of this work. Many victims face real barriers to participating in the system, and our focus has been on improving access, coordination, and support so people can safely engage. All of this is happening in the context of sustained case volume, which creates pressure on how quickly cases move. We have focused on improving workflows and coordination to maintain consistency and timeliness. Now, we are going to show you a brief video of 2 of the Deputy District Attorneys working in the Family Justice and Community Impact Division. The first speaker is DDA Michelle Thomas, who is one of our most experienced domestic violence prosecutors. She will be discussing a specific case she prosecuted that involved charges of rape and strangulation.
My name is Michelle Thomas. I prosecute domestic violence here in Multnomah County. And it's easy to look the other way and say, hey, it's complicated, or it's messy, or she has too much going on, and just decide not to step in, because there are a lot of reasons to say, no, I can't prosecute this. But there's always a bigger reason, ongoing violence, to try and intervene. And so it is so hard in these cases because these victims do genuinely, on a lot of levels, love their abusers and are connected to their abusers. They're tied to them financially, they have families and children. So we needed her to come forward. And what that looked like in that moment is the first day of trial, calling, sending cops, sending officers to her door, no response. And it looked like at 6 p.m. going to her door, myself personally, and knocking on her door in the rain, noticing that her window's open, and just saying her name and saying, please talk to me, please talk to me. I know you don't want to do this. I know that you want to stay at home. I know you don't want to come to court, but please just text me back. Please just call me. I come back to my office, and 2 hours later at 8 p.m., she texts me and she says, okay, I can do this.
So from 2010 to 2020, I prosecuted every juvenile gun case in Multnomah County. I say that because, in my opinion, that's the highest risk population of youth that we have, the ones that are involved in guns and gun crime, because anecdotally I can tell you that they either end up dead or in prison, or if you can assist them in seeing a different way, living a successful life. So that's the goal, and it's a challenge, and it's a great challenge. And so I see it as my position or my role to be the stern uncle, to say, no, you can't do that, to say, hey, maybe we're going to have a little time out, to say, and at the end of the day, let them know that I still care about them, and I want them to succeed, and they need to understand that, when you're on probation for a gun and you get caught with another gun, that's not good.
Adam Milne, and I own Baby Doll Pizza, Old Town Pizza and Brewing.
Can you pause that
and
video?
I run the
Thank you.
Can we go back to the slideshow, please? I think we're at slide 37. Thank you so much. Over the last several years, we have seen an increase in the number of domestic violence cases being prosecuted by our office. This is a reflection of the continued investment of resources to maintain staffing levels in that unit. That includes this board's approval of a budget amendment last year to restore a DV/DDA position. As you heard from DDA Michelle Thomas in the video, domestic violence cases are often messy and complicated. Because these crimes happen within the home, most cases come to us with minimal evidence, very often no video, and certainly no eyewitnesses. This makes successful prosecution dependent on the participation of survivors, who often face a number of challenges that make it difficult for them to participate in the criminal justice system. Our DV prosecutors are facing the challenges of these cases head-on and are working diligently to support survivors, hold offenders accountable, and keep the community safe. Next slide, please. Our office saw a reduction in our juvenile unit of a DDA position in FY 2026. Unfortunately, the reduction in our staffing levels has not been matched by a reduction in violence committed by youth in our community. On the contrary, we are continuing to see an increase in violent crimes, including murder, attempted murder, robbery, and assault committed by youth in Multnomah County. Our juvenile unit handles the prosecution of these cases with a commitment to youth reform and community protection, but this increase in violence throughout the community requires urgent attention. As you heard from SDDA's Eric Zimmerman, absent effective intervention, youth who commit offenses involving guns are at a greater risk of ending up in prison as adults or getting killed themselves. We need continued investment in juvenile prosecution to allow for intervention that will save lives and advance the goals of public safety. I will now turn it over to Chief Deputy District Attorney Mariel Mota.
Next slide, please. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mariel Mota. I'm the Chief Deputy overseeing the Prison Diversion and Strategic Prosecution Division. This division oversees our Child Support Enforcement Division, Treatment Court Unit, Minor Felonies and Strategic Prosecution, and our Access Attorney Program. We prioritize systemic efficiency, crime prevention, data-driven interventions, and sustainable rehabilitation. Jess is going to explain how this division is projected to be impacted by the FY27 proposed budget. Next slide, please.
The fiscal year 27 budget shows a steep decline of nearly 15% in budgetary resources and almost 17% in staffing. The Diversion and Strategic Prosecution Division performs profoundly impactful, albeit non-statutory work that our office does. To meet the 5% general fund constraint guidance and preserve much of the statutory work we do, reductions to programming in this division were required. I'll now turn it back to Chief Mota. Next slide.
The first challenge of this division is our resource constraints. Many of the cases we handle involve underlying behavioral health issues like substance use and mental health, and handling those cases appropriately often requires coordination with system partners, treatment court teams, victims, community advocates, and other stakeholders to support more effective and longer-term outcomes. That work is very obviously resource-intensive. As resources tighten, we have to focus more on core prosecutorial functions and presumptive sentencing, which means we have less capacity to engage in discretionary programming, including some diversion and some early intervention efforts. This further exacerbates our second challenge, which is the large gaps between our social support systems. In response to these challenges, we've focused on using data to more efficiently target higher impact crime. A relatively small number of individuals and locations account for a very disproportionate share of criminal activity, and our focus has been on directing our limited resources where they can have the greatest impact. We also use informed sentencing models in hopes of lowering recidivism, and we balance accountability with opportunities to create meaningful change. Diversion from prison and specialty courts play very important roles here and are proven to address root causes of criminal behavior and reduce the likelihood of future criminal involvement. Next slide, please. And all of what I said is more simply represented on this slide. This slide highlights the primary functions of the division and how we approach our work. We use data-driven prosecution to focus resources on individuals and patterns driving the most harm in the community. We prioritize early intervention where possible to address behavior before it escalates. We use prison diversion programs and specialty court pathways to create structured alternatives that hold people accountable while addressing their underlying issues. Because ultimately, our goal is meaningful rehabilitation and reducing the likelihood that any individual has to return to this system. Next slide, please. Now, diving into specific units of this division, we'll start with Strategic Prosecution Unit. This unit's function is to use data to identify people having disproportionate impacts on the public safety system. This can be broken down several ways, but primarily we use strategic prosecution in Multnomah County to look at spikes in discrete types of crime like robbery or car theft, or specific geographic areas like county districts or neighborhoods. When we address these trends, we see and then we address the trends that we see through law enforcement partnerships and community-led engagement. Next slide. This map is a great example of how we use data to assign our resources. As you can see, burglaries have some concentration or hotspots, but are extremely prevalent throughout the entire county. Due to their more diffuse occurrence, we converted one of our geographically assigned MAPS positions to a crime type-based position, which is now the Burglary Task Force position. You can also see retail theft is concentrated logically in our shopping centers, and the yellow dots are auto theft, which occur more spread out throughout the county. You may also notice that groupings of all three of these crimes in centralized areas like St. John's, East Portland, and Old Town, and that's why in past years we've assigned DDAs to these specific areas for location-based strategic prosecution. Those are formerly our MAPS attorneys. Next slide, please. Through this kind of prosecution, we see that the unit maintains a very high efficiency rate and a general high issuance rate. That means that the vast majority of cases referred by police to our strategic prosecution deputies are able to be issued and prosecuted. Next slide. We credit this efficiency to our robust and sustained partnerships. We are closely engaged with our law enforcement partners, but also very present and engaged with our community members. In FY26, this unit's deputies attended over 300 community meetings. These are defined as meetings hosted and led by non-law enforcement organizations or civilian groups. The unit as a whole prosecuted over 500 cases, and our location-based deputies issued 173 new cases, many of which would not have come to our office via normal channels and required direct community engagement and strategic law enforcement partnerships to develop. Next slide, please. Here we have a more in-depth case study of one of our positions within the Strategic Prosecution Unit, which is the Burglary Task Force. Simply stating the case numbers doesn't really tell you the story of why these positions are more efficient and more effective. Taking a closer look at the Strategic Burglary Task Force, for example, DDA Alex Garcia at this moment has 21 open cases. This does not include active investigations or sentence cases. Those 21 cases represent 18 defendants and a total of 180 separate burglary incidents. Altogether, these cases include around 245 total charges, representing obviously burglaries, but also things like unlawfully possessed firearms, property damage like smashed windows, damaged cameras, and broken doors, and felony drug delivery. So while it may look like on the surface DDA Garcia carries a relatively small caseload, each case he works focuses on a prolific offender, one person whose criminal impacts affect multiple homes, businesses, and Multnomah County community members. In this next video, you'll hear from some of the folks that we worked with this year on burglary task force cases. Could you please cue up video 3? Thank you.
Adam Milne, and I own Baby Doll Pizza, Old Town Pizza and Brewing, and I run the Shanghai Underground Tunnel Tours. Baby Doll Pizza during the pandemic had been broken into at least 6 times, and probably most of those were over a 2-year period. When I first heard from Alex Garcia, I just thought this was just another government official just doing their job, just, checking a box. And so I really wasn't very motivated. And Alex was very persistent, and I started to believe that actually he was going to do something about it. And I was shocked when I heard the news that they had actually caught the people that had broken to our restaurant. Probably, I don't know if they were all 6 break-ins, but probably the same pattern. And when there was a conviction, I could see that there was real action being taken. And I thought about this before I came in here. I don't want to jinx us, but ever since that happened, we have not had one break-in at either Old Town Brewing or Baby Doll Pizza. Wow. There's hope when somebody from the DA's office calls you and says, hey, we hear that your place has been broken into a lot, and we're going to actually do something about it. Yeah, it's that point of the city is turning around, because that's part of what I'm very passionate about. Is I know things haven't been going well, but we want to see momentum going forward. It's not going to happen overnight, but Alex in the DA's office was that kind of shining light that, okay, things are turning around here.
Tamara Young. And
oh, please play that one. Play this one, yeah. Thank you.
And I own a small business called Consign Couture. It's like your dream and what you've invested in your community just getting stolen, because I don't have different departments or, people to call on. Well, when Alex called, it was like somebody not only seemed like they cared about the case, that it was important, that it wasn't, I understand violent crimes are what, our resources have to go to immediately, but it felt like somebody understood like the importance and the fabric of the business owners that show up every day and what we're doing in the community, what we're offering. And it felt like there was a person behind the office, that cared. And also the detailed accounting about what was happening to the, is it perpetrator? What was happening with them and to them, it was all around like very humanizing. So like I got not only told how they found him and what was happening, but I also got told like the whole story of like this person had a record, they were, planning on, they already hit several businesses, and they had a prior record, and then we're planning on helping them in this way. This is what's offered. And it was all explained to me without feeling very lawyery, just like very human to human. And like this person actually also cared about the perpetrator, which is all I want.
Can you pause it here, please, and go back to the slideshow? Thank you. I believe we're on slide 49. Thank you so much. So while strategic prosecution focuses on high-volume offenders, thankfully most offenders do not reach prolific levels. The vast majority folks that we see in the minor felony unit have reached a crisis point, and due to many intervening factors find themselves charged with a minor felony. Our property and drug crime unit handles nonviolent cases, Class C felonies like stolen vehicles, drug deliveries, eluding police, felony DUII, and non-residential burglaries. The primary goals of this unit are to route people to services and treatment before there is escalation in their criminal behavior. We want to prevent overdose deaths, and we want to populate our treatment courts with people who will greatly benefit from structured community rehabilitation. This unit, due to its volume, is responsible for the most prison diversions and treatment court entries in the entire state of Oregon. Prison diversions at this scale demand a well-resourced unit of deputies who have the time and the training to consider complex mitigation like medical records, psychosocial evaluations, drug evaluations, and the complex specific life circumstances of each and every defendant. This is a very high-volume unit, as I've said, and treating each case with individual care and importance takes a significant amount of time. Next slide. And as you can see that, on this slide, we maintain a relatively high level of case issuance rates despite the volume of referrals. Next slide, please. Public health also plays a significant role here. Substance use in our county is, as you know, at crisis levels, and we try to address this in two ways: stopping drug traffickers and connecting those struggling with addiction to treatment. The chart on the right side of the screen shows that nearly half of all fentanyl delivery cases were designated as substantial quantity, which means much more than a typical personal use amount. These are people who are making profits from selling one of the most lethal substances on earth to members of this community. To address people charged with crimes and struggling with substance use disorders, we divert a huge number of presumptive prison cases to non-carceral resolutions. Almost 80% of the cases resolved between July 1 and last week were diverted from mandatory prison sentences. That equates to 567 empty prison beds in the state of Oregon. We do this not only because it's important to our community and it reflects our values, but because there is scientific evidence that consistently shows us that treatment is more cost-effective and supports public safety more than incarceration alone. Our treatment courts play a very important role in this process. Could you play the next video, please?
Hi, I'm Heidi Moat. I'm a circuit court judge, and I oversee Step Court, one of our treatment courts here in Multnomah County. Most of the people come into this program because they're tired of living the life they've been living. They're tired of cycling in and out of custody, and they truly do want to make a change in their life. They have not traditionally had a lot of the skills or modeling to make those changes in their lives. And I kind of think of Step Court as an accountability program as well in that regard. Participants are checking in with the court in the beginning, probably weekly or every other week at the most. We're tracking every group and meeting they've gone to, every UA they've taken. If they've missed anything, they have to explain to me why they've missed it. They may be sanctioned for missing even, one UA, depending on kind of the history of their participation with the program. There's a lot of accountability there, and I think accountability helps everybody achieve goals.
Yes, I helped build this courthouse, and then years later was sentenced in this courtroom, and then Judge Malad gave me another chance. She accepted me into her program, did a prison sentence, and got out to Step Court, and now here I am today, graduating in the same courtroom.
And given that opportunity now, I'm doing the best in my life that I've ever done before. I have a license now. I drive for a living, and I have a beautiful job. I have my own place. I'm able to open my home to my family and help my family, and I'm very grateful.
It really has taught me, it's allowed me to build a foundation to build off of. Before that, I had no structure, had no goals. I didn't know where I was headed in life. I was lost, I was homeless in my addiction, and this has given me a chance to sit down, get my mind straight, get healthy, and make a game plan. And I've been able to accomplish those goals every day, take it one day at a time.
Thank you. And before anyone asks, I don't know where to get that t-shirt, but I really want it.
That helps that person navigate the criminal justice.
Could we go to slide 53, please? Thank you. Multnomah County has been a national pioneer in the development and implementation of our treatment courts. We now have 5 separate treatment courts in Multnomah County, and for the first time in our office's history, we have a dedicated unit for those courts to provide consistent and long-term partnership to those treatment teams. In 2025, 280 people entered treatment court. Each one would have cost Oregon taxpayers between $60,000 and $80,000 to incarcerate per year. It costs us between $16,000 and $23,000 per year for a treatment court participant. That's a public savings of $44,000 to $57,000 per year per person, and that's between $12 and $16 million in the year 2025 alone. Our treatment courts also boast better recidivism rates than prison, and I think they also represent something very important and fundamental to our community values. We believe in accountability and we believe in second chances. Accountability does not have to come at the expense of compassion, and public safety improves when we center inclusion and support. Next slide, please. Here, we see the treatment court entry numbers, and because it's government, we have to use a lot of acronyms, so forgive me. START is success through accountability, restitution, and treatment, and it takes mandatory prison diversion from minor felonies. Mental health court is for offenders with severe and persistent mental health issues. STEP court stands for Strategic Treatment and Engagement Program and is the only ballot measure 11 diversion court in the state of Oregon. The DUII Intensive Supervision Program, or DISP, is for repeat driving under the influence cases. Veterans Court is brand new and geared towards providing veterans services and support based on their unique trauma and needs. And our recidivism rates in all courts are great. This chart shows an example for DISP of the participants, and their recidivism rate is 19% lower than the county average and 29% lower than the state's. I'll briefly tell you the other recidivism rates, and we'll provide the rest in an appendix. START Court's rate is 32% lower than the statewide probation rate across the same risk category, and STEP Court's rate is 33% lower on statewide probation across the same risk rate. And like I said, this information will be available via appendix. Next slide, please. Our treatment court unit is also responsible for aid and assist court, which is a docket of cases where the defendants are incompetent to stand trial due to severe mental illness, and there's processes that go along with evaluation of that for every case. And we also handle the county civil commitment proceedings. Those equate to about roughly 20 trials per month. For the first time last year with the support of Disability Rights Oregon, we received funding for a dedicated position to handle these complex and important hearings. The commission then recognized the need for a dedicated resource, and due to recent behavioral health law changes in House Bill 2005, we anticipate the complexity and the frequency of these trials to increase over the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. The division I've just told you about stands to be severely impacted by proposed budget cuts. If realized, our operations will necessarily be scaled back, and much of what this division accomplishes is going to be compromised. This division functions like a ladder. Every rung helps us move towards our goal of improved public safety through community-based intervention models. When you start removing rungs from a ladder, climbing becomes impossible, and you can't reach the goals that you've set out to achieve. Next slide, please. Another of those rungs is the Justice Integrity Division. This division is comprised of our Administrative Support Services, Records and Discovery Unit, Research and Planning Unit, Victims Assistance Program, Digital Evidence Management Unit, and the eponymous Justice Integrity Unit. Jessica will talk about how this division is impacted in this budget. Next slide, please.
The Justice Integrity and Victim Services Division is new for fiscal year 27, which is why there's no fiscal year 26 budget on this slide. The division consolidates programs previously budgeted within the District Attorney's Administration and Investigations divisions. In terms of budgetary and programmatic changes, though, none of the businesses of any of these specific programs has shifted. I'll now pass it back to Chief Moda.
Thank you.
Next slide.
Like it says right there in the name, this division focuses on maintaining the integrity of the system and supporting our community through a criminal case and its later impacts. Victim support is a core part of that work. Our focus is on providing consistent advocacy and follow-up so victims can stay engaged, feel safe, understand the process, and navigate their experiences in a supported way. We also have to modernize and adjust to technological changes, particularly with digital evidence management and investigative case development. As technology advances, evidence and investigative tools change, and it's our obligation to maintain and provide information to all stakeholders in the system. We also have a responsibility to maintain transparency and accountability. That requires strong data, comprehensive review processes, and clear communication about how our cases are handled, what our outcomes are, and what our policies say. And finally, this division supports post-conviction and legal work review, including expungements, petitions for resentencing and reconsideration, and clemency. That work is essential to improving public safety and ensuring fairness, accuracy, and confidence in our system. This next video shows one of our advocates talking about the impact of her work and one of our investigators to hopefully paint a more complete picture of what their jobs entail. Would you please cue up video 5?
I'm like a reliable person, right? That helps that person navigate the criminal justice system, making sure that they're aware of their rights, making sure that their voice is heard, and again, just being that safe, consistent place for a victim. They'll still reach out, you know, here and there. I'll have some just say, hey, just wanted to touch base and let you know that again, that thank you so much, or how are you doing? I work a lot with, you know, victims that don't speak English, right? And so a lot of times they'll still reach out asking questions, like maybe not necessarily with the process that happened here, but because their interaction here and them feeling heard, they'll reach out and like ask for resources or information on like other things. As much as I try, there will be times where you go home and it stayed with you, and I have found myself sometimes walking into my car and maybe tearing up or maybe just crying a little bit. Again, I don't think that I think it's impossible not to have those reactions, because we are dealing with some very sometimes horrific situations that have happened to people, right? And how do you not have that affect you?
We want to make sure the big push in this office and with every investigator is to make sure everybody has equal rights to take part in what they want to deal with. Sometimes they're very adamant, like, hey, I want this person to maybe get probation or mental health counseling, that they're a victim, but they're worried about what the other person had happened to them. And so it helps to have that communication with the DA. Well, if you don't have a phone, you don't even have email, how are you going to be part of that? And so finding them, meeting them where they're at. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to check in with you every Thursday at the 82nd Avenue where the Max line goes over the freeway. And there's one gentleman that I would meet with him every 2 weeks there, just to make sure that if he had questions, if he had concerns, that the DA could get a hold of him, and I would just hand him my phone and he would talk to the DA on the phone and get his concerns addressed, and work out an agreement that he was comfortable with. But without us being able to go into the field, he wouldn't have had that.
Could we go back to slide 61, please? This slide shows the percentage of cases that were dismissed due to a victim or witness issue, and you can see a steady decline over time. The improvement reflects the work of our victim advocates who support victims throughout what can be a very overwhelming legal process. They help people understand what's happening, connect them to resources, and address the barriers that might otherwise prevent them from participating, whether that's language, trust in the system, or prior negative experiences. That's also an equity issue. Not all victims experience our system in the same way, and this work helps ensure that more people are able to stay engaged regardless of their background. When that happens, more cases move forward and access to justice is strengthened in our county. Next slide, please. As I've said, rehabilitation is central to a healthy public safety system. Expungements are where we can finally close the loop on criminal prosecutions. Treatment and probation are great essential tools, but if you're unable to secure housing, employment, or educational opportunities, your chances of truly exiting the system are significantly reduced. At Multnomah County DA's office, we processed nearly 7,000 expungements in the year 2025 and are projected to process almost 8,000 this year. An expungement may seem like a simple formality to some, but the value of what an expungement can actually restore to some people is truly immeasurable. Could we play the last video, please?
Okay, Rosalie Anderson, Operations Manager with Ceasefire for the City of Portland.
The
Okay.
The value of expungement, at least for personal reasons, is it means a lot. It gives people second chances. It helps us, well, it helped me understand that even though I had done something bad in my past and I knew I was making a change, that other people could see that I was making a change and that something wasn't going to be held over me forever. There are people I work with that have had it happen. They've had some serious charges that are finally removed, and you can just see the difference in their life, the way they look at it, the way they act, what they bring to the community, how they try to help other individuals that are in the same situation. And I feel like we give hope to our younger people that have made mistakes, because we're like, if you got it, then we can get it. That's usually what they say to me. So I'm like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That was me able to let go of everything. For so long, I felt like I couldn't let go of that life. I had to hold on to it because it's the only real thing that I had. So when I got my expungement and when I got my pardon, it was like, no, you can let all of that go and start over and keep on going and show your girls that they're worth it, that there's people out there who do fight for you, even if they aren't part of your current world. People start to see you and they see the change and they're like, hold on, I used to arrest you. And now you're out here trying to stop the next kid from being arrested or dying. And seeing the whole system for what it is, because most of us only get a glance, and it's a very bad glance. So,
Could we go back to slide 63, please? Thank you. So as you heard in the video, and to return to my previous inelegant metaphor, expungements can be thought of the last rung on our ladder helping people climb out of the justice system. It would be a huge disservice to public safety and to our community to compromise the parts of the system that are specifically designed to restore them from harm. Thank you. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, 64 is right.
64 is correct, yes. Thank you. Justice Integrity and Victim Services is losing a Deputy District Attorney 3 position. Currently, this division performs both mandated and non-mandated work. The loss of this position means the unit will only perform work mandated by statute, and the remaining attorneys will absorb increased caseloads and court time, making expungement reviews less timely and limiting participation in community-based activities. Certain responsibilities in this unit will be shifted to certified law students to mitigate workload impacts, which is what the add back on this slide is referencing. Next slide, please. As previously mentioned, the Investigations Division was folded into Justice Integrity and Victim Services. In fiscal year 27, funding for the District Attorney's digital evidence management software received ongoing funding. This program was previously funded with one-time only resources for the last 3 years, and converting the funding to ongoing is critical for our business and very much appreciated. Thank you. I'll now turn it back over to DA Vasquez.
Okay, we have appreciated the opportunity to walk through our budget today with you. Throughout the presentation, we've tried to show how our work connects to county priorities, supporting victims, promoting accountability, and contributing to the safety and stability of our community. We've also aimed to be clear about the results we're seeing and how the outcomes are tied to the capacity of the system to do this work well. But I want to be blunt. When you invest in this office, we deliver results. Over the past several years, this community has made real progress, particularly in reducing violent crime and improving livability. That progress reflects coordinated work across systems. And it's something we should be working to sustain and improve upon. At the same time, this is a constrained budget environment, and we've approached our proposal with that in mind, focusing on core functions, making trade-offs, and prioritizing work that most directly supports victims and reduces harm. Having the kind of compassionate, effective justice system this county wants requires that it be adequately resourced to do the work well. And ultimately, this work is a central core component of the county's broader safety net. Public safety, economic stability, and community well-being are interconnected, and sustaining that connection is what allows the system to function as a whole. The proposed budget cuts over 14 positions, really more like 22 when considering the other restrictions. These are experienced prosecutors and staff who show up every day to pursue justice for victims and keep our community safe. These aren't abstract numbers. There will be layoffs. Fewer prosecutors mean fewer cases prosecuted. Crimes that would otherwise be charged will go unanswered. Victims who deserve their day in court will not get one. And those who cause harm in our community will face less or maybe no accountability. Our community deserves a district attorney's office with the resources to do this work well. We urge the county to avoid these cuts, to find amendments, to restore positions, and invest in the public safety infrastructure that our county is depending upon. Thank you. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you, DA, and thank you for everyone on your team who participated in today's, or who's here in the audience today. All right, we'll open it up to the board for who has any questions.
I have a bunch of questions, but I don't expect them all answered today, so I'll just put them out there. On your case issuance slides, I'm curious about the outcomes of those in each division as well. Thank you.
So just so you know, we're currently disaggregating those numbers to get them to the county, so we should have them to you before the end of this week.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. I'm also curious, you have contractual services in about 16 program offers. Just curious what those contracts are. I know in the past we've had dollars to do like restorative justice contracts, just not clear what they are from program offers.
We can try to break that out for you, for sure.
Thank you. Sorry. That's another one. There's one on your expungements. Let me see if I can pull up that slide number. Thank you. Slide 61. There's a discrepancy in the slide and in the budget book. So I'd just love to know, and it's just which ones, sorry, actually. 62? Yeah. Yes. Thank you. In the budget book, it says that FY25 actuals were 8,138, that the estimates for 26 are 9,200, and then 9,500 estimates for 27. I just want to know which numbers are right.
Yeah, we'll get those numbers and make sure we have the correct ones to you.
Thank you. And then you mentioned that some of the treatment courts, the data will be in appendix. It's not in this current appendix, though. You all are going to send that?
Yes, we're going to send that over.
Okay, perfect. Well, now I'm like the slides are backwards, but slide 61, it was percentage of cases disposed to the victim or witness problem. I don't know what problem means in this in these scenarios.
So when we say victim or witness problem in this context, it usually means that the victim has been served with a subpoena and has not appeared, and we are not going to proceed in formal, like trying to get the victim to court via normal processes. We also, in domestic violence cases, have a lot of like recantations or victims like saying they've received our subpoena and they will come, but the impacts are so great that we try to route their cases through other resources to help them stay safe and not deal with the collateral impacts of our system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's, in your appendix, there's a number of add backs, and I'm trying to figure out the MAPS positions in particular, because that division shows an increase at the same time that you're saying that the MAPS program or the MAPS attorneys are being decreased. I'm just having a hard time reconciling.
Is there a slide specifically that shows an increase?
Justice integrity. Oh, sorry, that's one that you don't have, the FY26 data.
Right, Justice Integrity and Victim Services didn't exist as a division last year, which is why it doesn't have a 26 budget.
So in the budget book, It's page 33, the PO 15021. Is this the one that holds the maps?
Yeah, we consolidated programs this year into just strategic prosecution. So MAPS was broken out last year into a standalone program in fiscal year 26, which is why SPU actually shows an increase. But if we were to take kind of the previous iterations of this from 2026, those things were decreased to the point where it didn't make sense to have standalone program offers any longer, and therefore they were consolidated. The division, however, is taking pretty significant cuts.
Okay, I may follow up with you because it's hard to,
for sure.
With the division combos, it's hard to be tracking what is the real increase or decrease in FTE.
Yeah, and we're happy to get you those numbers, but essentially you had before a MAPS unit and a strategic prosecution unit, but due to the losses, we couldn't justify how we would, have a supervisor and have that unit, so we consolidated it down to one. It would be a potential loss. And so overall, it looks like the one unit increased, but it's just by combining the two that causes that, where overall it is a decrease in FTE, and so.
So what would be helpful for me, and it might be helpful for you, for that slide 58 where it was showing the, where it didn't have, if you could follow up with where those positions were being moved from very specifically, because I know some other divisions showed a decrease, but I think like your office, for instance, was one, but I'm assuming a lot of that got moved over to here. So to show exactly how these FTE in this new division were being built out of the other ones would be helpful. No problem.
Be happy to do that.
Yes, and I apologize. It actually was program offer 15206 where it looks like you have the maps. So it's showing an increase of 4 FTE, which just makes it hard to understand the slides in comparison. And the add back on that comes to about 344,000 per FTE for the maps.
I believe that's for the level 3 position that is in the MAPS, yes.
Thank you. I am curious about, in program offer 15015, one of the outcome goals is number of services contacts provided to victims of crimes. Is this referrals? Is that what that's referencing, or is that something different?
Sorry about that. Can you tell, I do not have my program offer number memorized.
What?
I know. I believe that's victim services, though. Is that right?
Yeah. And these are all fine on follow-up, too.
Yeah, so when we're talking about contacts with our Victims Assistance Program, we're really talking about our victim advocates reaching out to some of the victims of crime. So that's a slightly different kind of contact than when we're talking about our Strategic Prosecution Unit, MAPS folks, going to community events.
Thank you.
Sure.
And program offer 15021 talks about expungements. I'm interested in, one of the outcomes is number of expungement motions processed, but I'm not clear what the universe is. So it would be helpful just to have a little more data around expungements. And then additionally, ones that you all do versus I think you may, and maybe you don't anymore, but there used to be contracts that went out that also were addressing expungements.
So we don't contract anything.
Okay.
We do all of the expungements for the entire county. There are contracts on the other side of the system, like Clear Clinic, that will bring them to us, but we have to review them all. And I think some of the disparity you might see in those numbers is cases or expungement petitions reviewed and then expungement petitions that were granted. And then we also disaggregated that by ones that we objected to on legal grounds, which are very few, but it's like when there's a deficiency in the application and we legally cannot not object to it. So we'll get you all that information.
Perfect, thank you. That data breakdown will be super helpful.
Yeah, we're also trying to disaggregate it by crime type to see where the expungements are happening the most.
So I talked a little bit with you the other day in our check-in DA, but I wanted to just see if you could talk a little bit about some potential reductions in your investigators from City of Portland proposed budget as well, so we can understand the full impacts there.
Yes, and it's a little more than that as well. So the traditional long-standing agreement between the City of Portland and Multnomah County has been that the City of Portland provided 3 investigators. For many years, when I started in the office, we actually had police officers. Police officers became a very scarce resource, so then they agreed to fund investigators. Then in the past few years, with the Auto Theft Task Force and the Organized Retail Theft Task Force, they funded an additional 2. So my understanding from the discussion, which is still very much up in the air, as we all know, is that they're at minimum going to take away those 2 investigators, the auto theft and the organized retail theft. And then, of course, what didn't make a lot of our materials, because we didn't find out here until just recently, is that TriMet cut our contract in half by, I believe, over $700,000, and that included 2 investigators, a victim's advocate, and a legal assistant position. So that brings the total to 4 investigators that we are trying to figure out.
Thank you. Any further ones I will send with specific program offers in follow-up. It's mostly about data, which I know y'all have been working on and will get back to me, or to all of us. The other data I would love to see is any of the amendments that increased your staffing last year and what were the outcomes. It may be qualitative data, that's fine, but understanding what the impacts of those investments would be around civil commitment and all the other 2 amendments. And then lastly, I will say, I want to appreciate the conversations we've continued to have around the Gateway Center. I'm going to be working with you to make sure that I can put forward a budget note that helps get the Gateway Center to where you and I would both like it to be. And I know that it's on that path, but it's not quite there yet, so we'll be bringing a budget note forward on that. And I want to appreciate your partnership on the front end, because I think that's such a critical resource that we really need to maximize.
Absolutely. Chief Amanda Nadell and I routinely talk about this. It's a critical kind of piece to our overall safety net, and I am very dedicated to seeing that getting back to its full operational capacity.
Absolutely. And then lastly, this isn't just you all, but I will be bringing forward a budget amendment on pretrial services so that we can get a system that actually functions the way that, hearing from you, the judges, our DCJ folks, public defenders, as well as LIPSIC, to make sure that we are putting together a program that makes sense, because the dollars, we don't have dollar amounts to those needs yet. I'm not introducing that amendment today, but I will continue to work with other partners to bring that forward in the coming weeks. Thank y'all.
When you talked about law students, I assume you were talking about the civil commitment, DDA?
We were actually talking about expungement, the reduction in the Justice Integrity Unit, that level 3 position. Part of that add back is to pay for certified law students to do some of the clerical work that our attorneys handle on the expungement side of the house.
So what would be your plan if you lost your civil commitment DDA?
Part of it is a question of whether or not it goes back to the county attorney's office. I know that they're not excited about that, and so we're having discussions with them. But if we lose that resource, there's a strong question about whether we can staff that or not.
Okay. On your aid and assist docket, what percentage of people who are found unable to aid and assist in their own defense do we ultimately get restoration and proceed with prosecution?
I'll see if I can get that data. As you know better than most, this is an area of, it's rapidly changing. It's an area that's wildly under-resourced. We're having issues at the Oregon State Hospital, issues with local restoration. We've been working, trying to be very forward-thinking, working with the Sheriff's Office. I know that, we are very fortunate that we have, I believe, the leading legal expert in the state of Oregon, in Melissa Marrero, who's been spearheading this to try to bring in some better efforts to look at how we can better serve those individuals while they're in custody locally. And so we continue to actively work on this issue, but the exact numbers, we can try to get those for you.
Okay. Could you break that out by people who were sent to the state hospital and people who were referred to community restoration?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm curious about the impacts, I can't remember the case name, but the timelines on misdemeanor prosecution and how that's impacted your office and your
I assume that.
what you are choosing to prosecute and how you are prioritizing resources?
Yeah, so I assume that's the State versus Roberts decision, which is both misdemeanors and felonies. It's for any individual that is that does not receive an attorney that needs one. And so how it affects us, right now the numbers are somewhere between 900 and 1,000 cases that were recently dismissed. So for all Class C and B misdemeanors, those cases are effectively gone. We cannot bring those back by statute. For Class A misdemeanors and then any felonies, we are kind of carefully going through and seeing, okay, it is both can we prosecute the case, and then also, given the immense burden on the system currently, is this one that we absolutely need to do? So we're doing that filtering process. For the felonies, we're bringing them back to grand jury and trying to proceed. And then on the other side, we've been very proactive. I particularly went down to the state legislature and addressed the joint House and Senate committee about this issue. They provided additional funding, and we have built, well, when I say we, my team built a fantastic rapid resolution docket. We're early in that process, but we've seen some fantastic results. It is, I believe, well on the way to helping address some of these issues, but it's something that is taking an immense amount of time, resources, and effort from top to bottom of the office to deal with.
And I just want to add briefly to that victim participation is a huge consideration on cases that we can bring back into grand jury. So a lot of our energy has been focused in contacting the victims of those cases to see if they want to come back, if they're still in town, if they want to participate in the prosecution, and also the added burden of having to explain to them what happened to their case. So that's a lot of our energy on those cases too.
One of the questions I have is related to individuals. This is honestly just a data question and not necessarily a budget question. I'm interested, if you can look at case records for individuals who have repeatedly been found unable to aid and assist, or individuals who have had repeated, obviously I want anonymized, civil commitments within like a 5 or 10 year period, just to look at some trends.
Yeah, we're happy to look at that data. I'll tell you the ones that we spend an immense amount of time and make it all the way into my office to talk about are the never able to aid and assist category. I think that'd be an interesting one to put in there as well, just because there's some of the most challenging and ones that we find the largest gaps in our system that we're really working very closely with the behavioral health unit, with county resources around to find systems that can help serve these individuals.
All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Hey. Thank you for the presentation, and I'm sorry that Mr. Dillman's left because I didn't get a chance to thank him. I know the important role the CBACs play in the overall process. So thanks to Mr. Dillman. Hopefully he'll get on the record, and also to the rest of the CBAC. I just want to start clarification. So your overall budget, there was a 5% constraint, and that's what you taken in this budget?
It's 5%, plus there was some considerable amount of one-time funding that was not renewed, so it's adding that together. There were, again, as we've said, there was the loss of our grant funding, losses in the area of TriMet, and then the city of Portland.
But the whole constraint was taken?
Yes, the whole 5% was taken out of this.
Okay. One of the, as I often talk about at the dais, the impact of crime on East Portland neighborhoods, both on the people living there, but also businesses, mainly small local businesses. I mean, some of the larger ones have just left because of the impacts of what's happening in the neighborhoods. Talk about, share in this package, the neighborhood DAs have been limited. Talk about what the impact that you see that not having those on. So that she mentions there's one in East Portland, Old Town, and North Portland, and specifically I'm interested in impacts on East Portland, one of the most impacted areas.
The historic part of it was that we would have our neighborhood deputies at least in the 4 quadrants of the county, and we tried to serve them, the county, in that way. We've been for a long time proponents that we need as many as 8 neighborhood deputies, just because Multnomah County is such a diverse, geographical location in the urban setting. It's just the differences from the Rockwood neighborhood to the downtown Portland are just so vast. To be able to serve that has been our traditional request and ask. Under the current proposal, we would not be able to maintain our burglary task force, which has been, we've seen a lot of fantastic results. But when we look at that and pulling back down these units, our ability to do that would be greatly impacted. The loss of the neighborhood deputy in the East Portland, which I think is most particular to your district. That deputy works closely with Ceasefire to reduce gun violence and does a substantial amount of work there. That deputy also handled the recent case, and it's really a fantastic example of what neighborhood deputies do. Is in working out in the community, she was alerted by community members of this kind of growing problem that they were having with basic infrastructure. Cellular service and power and street lights were going out because of what turned out to be a copper recycling fencer who was essentially pulling in massive amounts of materials that were really horribly impacting the community. She worked closely with the Portland Police Bureau, and they were able to make an arrest, and it stopped that behavior. The consequences were that before that, an individual lost their life because they got in a motorcycle crash where there was no street lighting. There were multiple individuals that were suffering, pretty serious medical conditions that couldn't get their medical equipment to work, loss of cellular service, loss of just basic power. So this was a huge issue that we were able to really kind of be on the forefront of. So it's things like that we work on a regular basis, I would say on an everyday basis, that would be the impacts.
Thank you. I'm just going to go back for a moment to the Community Budget Advisory Committee, and this is maybe a question for the chair. They recommended a series of add backs, and one was added back, but I mean, the Community Budget Advisory Committee was very concerned about all the reductions, just the scale of them. And there was one add back, which was the conversion of the digital evidence management unit from one-time only to ongoing, but the rest were not restored. And just looking at the disproportionality of the reductions in this budget, I'm curious about why these other ones you didn't add back, at least partially.
So yeah, I was actually, I did notice that in the appendix slides, there wasn't any mention that the digital evidence management, which was the #1 ask of the CBAC, was added, and the order that they're on the slides is not the order that the CBAC presented in terms of their priorities for restorations and things like that. So I did want to point that out, so I appreciate you bringing that up. And I will say, I read all of the CBAC letters as I was making my budget decisions, and there were many, many departments where the CBACs had many things that they wanted add back or restored or additions made. So what I tried to do as much as possible is take the highest priority of the CBACs across departments and either restore those or add those. That wasn't even always possible in cases throughout the department, but that's really what I tried to go on in such a tough budget time for all the departments.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm going to ask, and I don't know if this is to budget staff, but just the constraints across the board. So everybody got a 5% constraint, and if all of those had been accepted, the savings would have been much more than actually would have been needed. And I'm curious just about how it played out across the system in terms of whose constraint were accepted.
Yeah, so for instance, like the district attorney has a 5% constraint that was all taken. If you look at like the health department, for instance, they had a 6% of cuts. The Department of County Management had 8%. So yeah, so it does vary by department across the county.
Right. So another question is, how will the reductions of the deputy DAs result in the efforts to divert individuals from prison? So all the treatment courts.
Yeah, it's the way that I always look at this is that our office, when we are well-resourced and we have the deputy DAs to do this, they are spending really a vast amount of their time reviewing that mitigation material, the substance use disorder issues that are bringing the mental health issues, and then they are working hard through process of sometimes judicial settlement conferences, but also meeting with defense attorneys to then funnel those cases into our treatment courts. So those drivers are really throughout our violent crimes, even our family unit, and then of course through our property and drugs unit. Those three, and of course I would say even our other violent crimes units, they are pushing in all those cases. But when we see a constraint, what happens is our caseloads are already at sometimes 3 to 4 times that of our defense counterparts. And so as they're going to have to absorb more and more cases, their ability and time to do that work for mitigation just goes away. The quick and easy way to handle cases is that the state law gives us a grid and we can just point to it and go, that's the prison sentence, and off we go. That is not the healthiest way to run a district attorney's office, in my opinion. Under the philosophy of compassionate accountability, we need to be digging in and doing the work of those treatment courts. But if I don't have the time and ability to do that, we just simply can't. And so this will impact our ability to put in cases, and at times may cause us to have to close our participation in treatment courts. Just without the opportunity, we have everything from our mental health court to our step court to our start court. Those are ones that as we look forward in the years ahead, I want to continue to be very heavily involved in those. I go to the graduations, I enjoy them, but it's just a simple matter of will we have the resources available to do that work.
Thank you.
I want to do a quick time check because we're about 10 minutes over for the DAs, and we do have the sheriff and her team here to go ahead. We have time on Thursday afternoon to invite the district attorney back if there are additional questions that folks have.
Well, I have some additional questions, and if there had been a constraint at the beginning, it would have been helpful to know.
So we had two budget items scheduled for this morning.
Yes, sir. So I will submit some questions, and I definitely would want to come back. I want to ask about the potential of layoffs. These are mostly represented employees.
They would be all representative employees.
All represented employees. And the county project SAVES, which is to try and keep our investment of people and talent, is an effort to place people whose position may have been reduced. My assumption, because these are relatively specialized, it's not like they could go to the health department or like a vacant position somewhere else, that most of these would be very challenging to retain the talent that we've invested in.
Most, if not all, I don't believe would fit into the Project SAVE, which I appreciate that program greatly. However, there's not a functional equivalent to a deputy district attorney prosecutor here in the county. We're the only department that does that work. Investigators are another one that there's not a very simple way to see them go into Project SAVE. So I have struggled to find that so far, but we'll certainly look and try. But yes, I mean, these are employees that at this point we're looking at around 20.
Thank you. So I would like time when we come back, because I would like to ask more questions about auto theft and burglary task force, which is another, which are two things that have a huge impact on East Portland. But before I turn off my mic, I want to share that I have an amendment that I'm introducing relating to pretrial. So I am moving $800,000 into the pretrial transition one-time only account, and essentially this would, through the Local Public Safety Coordinating Council, which has been facilitating discussions around the pretrial and the decision to both eliminate pretrial services through DCJ and the sheriff, this would fund partially the transition work that would, so it's budget neutral. It would pool the one-time general funds from pretrial transition and monitoring, plus the $800,000 in one-time federal funds that was originally applied for, as intended for Closed Street Behavioral Health Expansion Pilot Project through a congressional earmark, and the MCSO Closed Street Program, which has been proposed to close. The pretrial transition work has been conducted by LIPSIC in the non-departmental. These funds allocated to this amendment will continue to come from recommendations and support the recommendations from LIPSIC, which represent the critical system safety partners. So it's budget neutral, and I'll also be distributing a draft framework that will replace or serve as a transition for the pretrial services that have been previously handled by DCJ and the sheriff. So,
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
I could hold my remarks until Thursday. Just want to say thank you again. I appreciated the metaphor of the ladder. So I'll just save the rest of my remarks, seeing that we're over.
Thank you.
Okay.
Time. Thank you.
Thank you. I will, sorry, I had a couple things just because I will have some additional follow-up on Thursday, but just to help you be prepared for those. I know that, for instance, like the TriMet cut came late after a lot of the budget materials have been proposed. So could you provide a list of all the cuts from other funding sources? Because I know when we talk about some things like some of the specialty courts, right, we have had significant decrease in state funding levels for some of those, which are impacting some of the cuts that we're talking about. So I think that would be good for the board to see all that. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Thank you all so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
So I have just asked you one other thing. On your expungement slide, do you think you could go back to 2020 and 2021? Because Senate Bill 397 in 2021, which I was working with Floyd Przanski and the ACLU, which simplified the process, which I think led to, in a good way, an explosion of expungements,
yes.
Which is a good thing. But it would be helpful to see, just because I think the slide starts post passage, which I don't think shows the full scope.
That's exactly where our data starts, because we were tracking them differently before that Senate bill, but we can get the previous information. You will probably see a huge spike because access was improved.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to our second budget work session for today, which is the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office with Sheriff Marcia O'Donnell and her team. So I'll invite them to come on down. All right, and as you guys are getting settled and we roll in, I will say, Commissioner Brett, you're right. I did not say how much time we had for that, so I'll try to do that as we're starting the work session, just so that we can keep on track. And we always, though, intentionally have scheduled open work session time for follow-up questions, so that we will, even if we don't get through everybody's questions, we always will have time for departments or offices to come back.
You can speak faster too.
And yes.
Good morning, Chair Vega Peterson and Board of County Commissioners. I'm Nicole Morrissey O'Donnell, Multnomah County Sheriff, and we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm looking forward to sharing our budget priorities, key challenges, and the future of public safety in Multnomah County. Before we begin, I would like to recognize our entire MCSO team. We are an organization of more than 800 people dedicated to providing exemplary public safety services every day. Also, I want to thank our budget staff for their patience and dedication in their work. I have appreciated their efforts throughout this process, as well as year-round, to review budget matters and trends to ensure that we remain fiscally responsible. As an elected official and administrator of a public safety office, I understand that there are difficult decisions to build a budget that meets the needs and expectations of our community. Throughout this presentation, I do ask that you keep in mind that nearly every part of the local public safety system depends on the Sheriff's Office to function effectively. We are expected to operate without failure or delay. Yet when any part of the criminal justice system experiences pressure, it shows up in our operations immediately. In plain terms, we are central to public safety in Multnomah County. At the same time, our system is operating under increasing strain in areas of jail capacity, staffing, court services and court security, and pretrial services. The people we serve today require more care, more services, and more time than ever before. When our jail is limited in its ability to accept bookings, it directly impacts our law enforcement partners. As we approach budgeted capacity in our jail, it affects booking decisions and community safety. When court processes are delayed, it could extend an individual's time in custody and disrupt court proceedings for everyone involved. And when facility lobby access is reduced or closed, it impacts social and professional visitation in our jails. All of these impacts affect our partners. They impact victims of crime, our staff, our adults in our custody, each relying on a system that they expect to function effectively. The reality is these are not isolated issues. They are interconnected and they all come back to the Sheriff's Office. Over the years, we have made operational adjustments, reallocated resources, and improved our processes to become more efficient. This presentation outlines how we are managing our responsibilities with a continued commitment to supporting Multnomah County's ongoing recovery as key parts of our system continue to stabilize, and ensuring that we can deliver public safety that strengthens our community. Maintaining this momentum is critical, and we cannot risk losing ground. Next slide, please. Detailed here is our agenda. Before we begin, I just wanted to check in with the chair around questions, and if you would like us to pause at each section of our presentation for questions.
So this is like a work session format, so usually people will ask questions.
Perfect.
But knowing that we do have a lot of slides to get to, it's usually better to wait to the end unless there's clarifying questions.
Okay. Next slide, please. Our agency's vision is for a safe and thriving community for everyone. Building strong neighborhoods where everyone feels safe begins by strengthening partnership and trust. As sheriff, I am dedicated to building relationships by breaking down barriers through open and honest communication, transparency, and accountability. I am committed to listening to and learning from all community members to build solutions together. And also, I want to acknowledge that it is the people of this organization that drive success and positive change. It is imperative that we continue to find avenues to retain our current members and recruit passionate new members who reflect our community, our values, and who are dedicated to serving others. Pictured here are MCSO deputies alongside multiple partner agencies working together to keep our streets safe through a focused DUII mission in East County. The work that evening also honored 2 Multnomah County Sheriff's Office reserve deputies who were both killed in the line of duty by an impaired driver 33 years ago. Next slide, please. It is our mission to support all community members through exemplary public safety service. The values of the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office provide the foundation of how we do this work each day and how we uphold the integrity and trust of those that we serve. They're centered on serving everyone with dignity and respect, hearing and valuing all voices, and accountability, which is key. We hold ourselves and each other accountable as we strive for continuous improvement. As depicted here, MCSO members participate in multiple community events and engagement sessions each year. We serve the neighborhoods that we proudly call our own. It's important to us that we are visible and connected to the individuals and families in positive and fun ways, and it is another impactful way to build trust and support within our community. Throughout this presentation, you will continue to hear about our mission and values in action. Next slide, please. MCSO recognizes the Community Budget Advisory Committee's history of partnership, recommendations, and independent deliberation through Multnomah County's budget process. This group comes together several times a year to hear about all of our organization. I want to thank each member for their service. These individuals volunteered a significant amount of their time within a very short time frame to learn about the Sheriff's Office and offer their perspectives as members of our Multnomah County community. It is also important to recognize the Office of Community Involvement. We appreciate their work in facilitating this committee in partnership with us. Joining us from MCSO CBAC is Erica Gregg. I will turn the presentation over to her to share the CBAC feedback and the recommendations. Next slide, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And then just hit the button right. Oh, thank you.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Like she said, my name is Erica Gregg. I'm returning this year as the Chair of the Sheriff's Office CBAC. This year, our committee makeup consisted of 3 returning members focused on continuing our conversations surrounding the priorities and outcomes of last year's process. In January, 3 additional members joined our committee. They were onboarded, and we drove right into creating our report and recommendations. Right away, our focus once again quickly narrowed in on the current state of the Multnomah County Detention Center. Myself and the other 2 returning committee members toured MCDC and would like to thank Sergeant Taylor for giving us thorough and thoughtful insight into the facility's operations and intricacies. Seeing the disrepair of core systems such as elevators and electrical systems, and then discussing frequency of system failures like plumbing and HVAC systems only confirms the CBAC's recommendation that planning and financing a new, modern, and logistically practical jail facility should be a top priority for the Commission. The committee was encouraged to hear of the significant work the Sheriff's Office has put into reducing its vacancies over the last year. Improved staffing raises employee morale, reduces overall personnel costs, and provides better service to the community. We would encourage the Commission to provide ongoing funding to the Sheriff's Office Human Resources Unit so this upward projection can continue. The discussions throughout our meetings kept centering around public safety as a whole, and anytime there are shortcomings in one aspect or department, the negative impacts spread to the rest of the system. The citizens of Multnomah County expect safety, livability, and a functioning justice system, and the decisions made by the board directly impact how that can be achieved and maintained. Next slide, please. The committee encourages the board to take a holistic view of public safety in the county to ensure its constituent functions are properly funded. Our letter to the chair sent this past March identifies several specific recommendations about how to achieve a properly funded public safety system. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Erica. Once again, we appreciate everyone's flexibility and dedication to our budget process. Each year, we all recognize this is a large and complex project where the CBAC's participation and voice represent the public's partnership in MCSO's operation and fiscal stewardship. In developing this year's proposed budget to the chair, the executive team and I met with the chair's office, our command members, the Community Budget Advisory Committee, and Labor Association leadership. We asked challenging questions that come with being fiscally responsible stewards of public funds. MCSO is primarily responsible for mandated services connected to law enforcement, corrections, and court services. These responsibilities are governed by federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Maintaining stable funding means that crime and violence is disrupted and people engaged in criminal activity are held accountable, bringing justice to victims and survivors and restoring safety in our communities. a well-funded and well-resourced correction system that is reliable and built to meet the demand, with sufficient capacity to support bookings and the needs of our law enforcement partners, while also providing programming and reentry services that encourage meaningful change. Ensuring timely response to calls for service and providing investigators with the resources needed to move cases forward to prosecution. Serving protection orders to support victim safety and reinforce accountability. It also means regular engagement and connection with our neighbors, businesses, and partners to build trust and be responsive to our community's concerns. Next slide, please. Throughout 2025, I led the Sheriff's Office through a strategic plan process to identify the pillars of our work and anchor our vision and mission through core principles. As you heard at the beginning of our presentation, we have a very clear vision and mission that guides our organization, and we deliver on that through 3 strategic pillars: serve, engage, and lead. We serve our community with dedication and purpose, reducing crime, protecting lives, supporting victims and survivors, and holding individuals accountable. Accountability is essential to community safety, and it is strongest when paired with services that promote responsibility and support change. At the same time, we hold ourselves accountable through transparency, professionalism, and continuous improvement. We engage with our community, with our partners, and with our teammates. We communicate openly and build relationships that are grounded in trust. Hearing diverse perspectives strengthens collaboration and helps us work together toward viable solutions that make our community safer. And we lead by how we work together as one agency, one team, with a shared focus on improving community safety. We set high standards through our actions, using public dollars responsibly, investing in innovation and training, and preparing this organization for the future. Next slide, please. We put these principles into action in our community and within our organization through 4 key words: present, connected, inspired, and proud. By being present and connected, we show up fully engaged, focused, and ready to serve with professionalism and confidence. We listen to build trust and an understanding of the unique needs of every community. We are part of our Multnomah County community. We are inspired to lead and innovate with the motivation and commitment to make a positive impact, whether that's keeping our schools safe, helping solve a problem on someone's most challenging day, being a role model or a mentor. We value service and uplift one another to advance this work together. And we are proud. We're proud to serve Multnomah County and to represent the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. We know that how we show up every day matters. It matters to our community, and it matters to those working alongside us. Next slide, please. Now we'll shift into more of the budget details. For fiscal year 2027, the approved budget for the Sheriff's Office accounts for $234.3 million. This is a 3.8 increase over the FY26 adopted budget, though MCSO will enter FY27 with 9 fewer FTE, primarily due to the closure of the Closed Street pretrial program. Next slide, please. As depicted here, it's our budget by fund for fiscal year 26 and 27. The Sheriff's Office has and continues to be reliant on the general fund for the vast majority of its budget. This year's budget moves corrections funding previously related to Senate Bill 1145 into the general fund, ensuring that corrections funding with respect to jail beds is managed fully at the local level and provides more stability, given the uncertainty of the state's community corrections budget. Federal funding continues to be impacted by new administrative rules or executive orders. Next slide, please. Our budget trends over the past several years have been fairly consistent, given that personnel expenses are primarily general fund reliant. To better align funding to actual operational use and streamline the administration of Senate Bill 1145, Community Corrections, you will see the adjustment in the FTE near the bottom here. The federal state portion has decreased, and the general fund portion has increased. Next slide.
So Sheriff, I'm sorry, I just want to jump in here really quickly, because I think the FTE reduction of the federal and state is pretty significant. It looks like it's 34 FTE.
That is related to Senate Bill 1145, and it's for the FTE corrections deputies that are utilized for those dorms to run that function.
Okay.
And that was moved into the general fund.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. Then it looks like it was backfilled. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
So those, we're not losing all of those because they were backfilled with general fund.
Correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Also illustrated in the FTE trend slide, our largest expense is our people. And our personnel budget accounts for almost 80% of our total MCSO budget. Our remaining categories will have comparatively small increases or decreases in 2027. Next slide, please. Continue or questions, okay? So we'll move on the next slides that will cover each of our divisions, and that will include fiscal data and highlights from the various work units. Next slide, please. MCSO is comprised of the Executive Office and 4 divisions: Corrections Facilities, Law Enforcement, Agency Services, and Business Services. This slide represents each division's budget as a percentage of our overall budget to include the FTE breakdown. Corrections Facilities is our largest budget by division, followed by Law Enforcement as illustrated. Next slide, please. So I'll start by talking about our Executive Office. I directly oversee this part of the organization, which includes the Sheriff's Office Division Chiefs, the units of Professional Standards, Communications, Human Resources, and Wellness and Equity. The positions of Chief of Staff, Deputy Chief of Staff, Inspector, and Policy Advisor are also seated here. Each year in office, I continue to evaluate our structure for best aligning our organization through our divisions. This year, that resulted in a shift of the Human Resources Unit into the Executive Office. Next slide, please. Here is our Executive Office budget overview comparing FY26 and FY27. The largest increase in budget and FTE within this section are the result of moving the Human Resources Unit from the Business Services Division and into the Executive Office. Next slide, please. MCSO's policy process promotes organizational transparency by including community and governmental partners in policy development, and specifically ensuring a robust public process. Our policy cycle with regular reviews also addresses ongoing impacts of the annual legislative sessions that results in new laws or new court rulings. Our Professional Standards Unit tracks best practice, reviews member misconduct reports for policy violations, and ensures professional and accountability internal affairs processes. The Sheriff's Office is required to participate in several evaluations through outside agencies each year, and this results in regular oversight of our policy, procedures, and our operations, including the Multnomah County's corrections grand jury process, state accreditation for law enforcement and corrections, and the community inspection per the county charter. In recent years, I also called for independent assessments through the National Institute of Corrections. I'm proud of the progress that we have made to make improvements in recent years, which are shared transparently through our public-facing dashboard for the Corrections Recommendations Project. Building on this work, we will be launching the annual Compliance and Innovation Project, and this will allow this to continue to be public-facing, and it will keep this work actively managed, ensuring ongoing improvement and alignment with best practices. Next slide, please. Recruiting, hiring, and retention continue to be top priorities for the organization. This board has seen this chart before. We shared it during our March briefing when we provided an update on the overall recruitment and hiring process improvements. This chart illustrates our agency-wide sworn and non-sworn vacancy rates as of February each year from 2019 to 2026. The financial investment from the chair and the board allowed us to right-size our Human Resources Unit and provide focused leadership and project management through the Executive Office. That work led to significant improvements in our processes and hiring timelines. As depicted here, some areas of the organization had over a 12% vacancy rate, and now, just over a year later, our agency-wide vacancy rate has been reduced to just over 6%. Thank you to our new hire ceremony we just held yesterday. Our process now reflects a more balanced approach, where we're filling vacancies across our entire organization and not filling vacancies at the expense of one group over another. This progress will continue with an ongoing focus and a sustained investment. That said, I also recognize that we remain in a challenging time where corrections deputy vacancies continue to coincide with an increase in jail use in Multnomah County. As our law enforcement agencies begin to rebuild staffing capacity and their coordinated initiatives to address specific public safety concerns, we see increases in law enforcement's ability to address calls for service, engage in self-initiated activity, and provide an increased presence in our communities. As I said before, our correction system is the center wheel where the movement of processes is critical to not delay or grind the entire criminal justice system to a halt. As you will hear later in the presentation today, operational demands are already exceeding what is currently budgeted. And I will also outline the future of public safety and the investments needed to align resources with the demand to provide for a public safety system that our community expects and deserves. It is for all of these reasons that the Human Resources Unit is a foundational component of public safety and success for MCSO and our community. Next slide, please. The Sheriff's Office provides a wide range of public safety services across Oregon's most populated county, which includes the most urban city of Portland. We support all Multnomah County residents and visitors. Given the scope and complexity of our work, how we communicate is critical. We communicate for the purpose of myself as the elected and for this office through press conferences, statements, and media interviews. Our public information officer is also responsible for pushing out information regarding incidents and emergencies that impact our community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. One key performance indicator for the Executive Office focuses on our communications unit, ensuring we provide timely, accurate, accessible, and clear information both to our members and the public through proactive engagement. This matters because efficient, organized, and clear responses, particularly to public records requests, builds trust within our community and reinforces transparency and accountability. For FY 2027, our target is to maintain an average of 5 days for open public records requests. As you will hear in each division today, each of these performance indicators is directly tied to our strategic plan. We defined a clear vision for the organization, identified how each division contributes to that vision, and then we translated that into measurable indicators of success. Next slide, please. This year's budget adds $482,568 in ongoing general fund dollars to the Executive Office to maintain partial funding of the human resources expansion that was initiated in FY 2026. For 27, MCSO requested funding for 6 FTE to maintain the human resources expansion. We received funding for 3 FTE, and we were able to support 2 of the unfunded FTE with internal reductions and reallocations. I will now turn the presentation over to Chief John Harms-Millant to cover the Business Services Division. Next slide.
Good morning. Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. John Harms-Millant. I'm the Chief of the Business Services Division for the Sheriff's Office. Business Services supports everyone who works for the Sheriff's Office, empowering them to uphold the high standards our community demands and to do so with maximally efficient use of public resources. Our division includes MCSO's fiscal unit, which manages our budget and agency purchasing. It includes our planning and research unit, which provides our data collection, analysis, and reporting functions. Our CJIS IT unit, which provides the hardware, software, infrastructure, and support that keeps the agency running. And the training unit, which onboards and teaches our members throughout their careers. Next slide, please. So for fiscal 27, Business Services will shrink from 57.5 general funded FTE to 36 FTE. This is due to the transfer of the Human Resources Unit from the Business Services Division to the Executive Office. Next slide, please. Business Services supports each of the 832 Sheriff's Office employees who work at one of our 10 different locations. One aspect of that support pertains to purchasing and contracts. Seen here is procurement analyst Dallas Monaco, who along with his coworkers efficiently manages numerous purchases, agreements, and procurement processes. Their goal is to spend public monies efficiently while ensuring MCSO members receive the best possible product on the shortest possible timeline. Though MCSO has a very lean business services division, its impact is critical to the functioning of the entire agency and I would argue to the county as a whole. Next slide, please. So one of the many challenges faced by the Business Services Division is keeping this agency on budget, and as the sheriff has mentioned previously, nearly 80% of our budget is personnel. I raise this point because I think it's critical to understanding the state of our finances today. When most people think of corrections, for instance, they think of the cost of physical buildings, dorms, cells, what have you. But the reality is the cost of corrections is more about people. It's about the people who provide counseling services, who escort those in custody to facilitate their court matters, who ensure those in custody are safe and have as much freedom of movement as possible and as much access to supportive services as possible. For this reason, as the needs of adults in custody increase, so much the funding for corrections. Unfortunately, this has not always been the case. One example of this is medical transports, which are instances in which corrections staff are bringing persons in custody to their scheduled medical appointments. As you'll see on your screen, MCSO receives funding equivalent to about 4,000 hours annually. This is 2 full-time Monday through Friday day shift posts that support that need. The number of hours devoted to medical transports in practice annually eclipses 10 to 11,000 hours. This is just one of many such examples within the Corrections Division. We see the same phenomenon with Suicide Watch, with hospital details, and other functions that have received no additional financial support, even as demand for them has grown steadily over time. And for context, this increased demand has come about even as the county has reduced its overall jail capacity and population over the last decade. Next slide, please. Another good example of this general phenomenon, a growing demand for services without a responsive change in funding, is agency training. Our goal, as captured in this KPI, is to offer responsive training, which is to say training that is informed by ever-changing community needs, staff need, changes identified by audits or other regulatory entities, or general changes in the public safety profession. Each of these place new demands on our training unit. As with our Corrections Division, when we talk about demand, what we're really talking about is staff time. When it comes to training, that demand is doubly impactful, as each additional hour of training requires additional instructional time and additional student time, the latter of which is nearly always outside of typical posted hours and is thus paid as overtime. Business Services will continue to reckon with these challenges as best we can, ensuring that we can continue to meet dual community demands of fiscal responsibility and highest quality service. I'll now turn it over to Chief Deputy Reardon to discuss corrections facilities. Next slide, please.
And good morning. For the record, I'm Steve Reardon, Chief Deputy of our Corrections Facilities Division. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. The Corrections Facilities Division includes the operation of 2 jails, the Multnomah County Detention Center and Inverness Jail. Historically, there have been several units supporting corrections within this division. The Close Street program providing pretrial services, classification unit, behavioral health unit, and programs unit. Next slide, please. In this graph, you will see the overview comparing FY26 and FY27. Changes this year are related to the county ensuring stable funding for jail beds and operations by using local general funds. The Corrections Facility Division operating budget reflects an adjustment between Senate Bill 1145 funding and general funds. About $1.3 million in general fund was used to offset the Senate Bill 1145 reduction, aligning funding with actual use and improving administration. Senate Bill 1145 funds moved from MCSO to Department of County or Community Justice, while the matching general fund shifted from the Department of Community Justice to MCSO, resulting in no net change to the county budget. The slight drop in FTE stems from closing Close Street, which is a reduction in 8 FTE, and adding 2 FTE corrections counselors through the House Bill 3194 grant, which is a treatment readiness dorm funding that shifted from DCJ to MCSO. With a reduction of Close Street, approximately 450 individuals will need supervision elsewhere or be possibly added to the MCSO jail population, which has been rising rapidly and nearing levels that will initiate the emergency population release plan. Next slide, please. MCSO's FY27 budget submission funds 1,130 jail beds between 2 facilities. Maintaining this stable housing configuration supports a balance of available single cell and open dorm options in our facilities to meet the basic needs and safety of the adults in custody and staff. Ongoing funding for appropriate jail capacity supports public safety efforts in the community and provides flexible flexibility within our jail system. Our aging jail facilities are not equipped to meet the increasing needs of our adults in custody. The increase in adults in custody require more intensive care has highlighted the shortcomings of facilities that require millions of dollars to maintain but not improve. It is vital to support the development of a centralized facility that can meet the needs of our adults in custody experiencing crisis and our staff, helping us attract and retain qualified professional personnel during these difficult times. Next slide. We must operate the Multnomah County Corrections System within the budgeted capacity regardless of how many individuals are arrested and booked each day or outside impacts that may arise. Looking back over time, we had a funded capacity of 1,633 beds before the county faced significant budget reductions. The reduction of budgeted capacity is represented by the green line of this chart, which also illustrates our average daily population in relationship to the 95% capacity. You can see that our average daily population has closely paced 95% of our funded capacity, resulting in consistent population emergencies over the years. The one exception being in 2020 when emergency orders were placed related to COVID-19. The jail population was significantly reduced. However, funding was maintained to safely spread individuals throughout the system to prevent illness and prioritize health care. Several factors have led to the greater use of jail beds as discussed in earlier slides. The blue line shows that our average daily population has consistently increased to 90%, leading to booking restrictions per the county's jail capacity management plan. Increases and decreases in our population can be unpredictable. Our ability to be flexible and respond to this challenge is contingent on adequate funding for staff and to expand jail capacity. Without these resources, we anticipate relying on the emergency population plan much more often. Next slide, please.
Can I just ask briefly, when was the last time, I think you said emergency population planning, but people refer to it as matrixing. When was the last time that we had to do that?
2019.
Thank you.
Our programs unit provides essential services to adults in custody, including counseling, resource referral, and spiritual support. These programs are designed to stabilize and positively impact individuals in custody, ensuring their effective progression through the jail system and preparation for successful reintegration into the community. This unit also provides adults in custody with life skills, literacy, high school completion, and pre-employment training to support personal growth. In addition, our corrections counselors offer cognitive behavioral education, substance use relapse prevention, and overdose awareness to enhance treatment readiness and behavioral change. In 2025, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office Program Unit was able to restore June repair for our Muslim population, Alcohol and Narcotics Anonymous. In addition, we were able to add Buddhist meditation, Jehovah's Witness services, and made successful transition of the treatment dorm from Volunteer Services of America to MCSO corrections counselors, which has allowed us to share curriculum with the service providers in our community. Next slide, please. Shown here is the program detail for the Senate Bill 1145 backfill by general funds that I previously mentioned. Thank you, and I'll turn the presentation over to Rob Stewart, Chief Deputy of our Agency Services. Next slide.
Thank you, Chief Reardon. Commissioners, Chair, appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today and talk to you about our work in the Agency Services Division. The Agency Services Division brings together programs specific to the courthouses, transports, facility security, logistics, auxiliary services, records, and corrections compliance. These units offer a combination of support to divisions across the agency, along with our court services and facility security units, who provide support to the Sheriff's Office, Multnomah County courthouses, as well as the community we serve. Next slide, please. So this reflects the Agency Services Division budget and FTE overview comparing FY26 and FY27, and reflects a minor adjustment contributed to inflationary factors as well as the addition of 2 records leadership positions. Next slide, please. The units within our Agency Services Division provide a variety of different services to the public, our agency partners, and individuals in our custody and care. MCSO operates 2 distinct records units, law enforcement records and corrections records. Both units provide internal support as well as services to the public and other system partners. The work of our records technicians include accounting for adult and custody information, court records, investigations, and warrants. The MCSO Records Unit received over 7,000 requests last year, and that's in addition to the work of processing court orders and warrant information, confirming warrants, coordinating extradition requests, and transport documentation for those in our custody. Last year, our facility security unit screened more than 667,000 individuals through their assigned facilities, screening over 441,000 at the Central Courthouse screening checkpoints alone. Our facility security officers are ambassadors of the Sheriff's Office, serving in frontline positions, not only in our Multnomah County courthouses, but in both of our jail facilities' public lobbies, the Juvenile Justice Center, and at the Gateway Center. Largely due to your investment in our Human Resources Department, our facility security unit is almost fully staffed, which has allowed us to open a third screening bay at the Central Courthouse during our busiest days, as well as adding additional visitation hours at our Inverness Jail. These efforts collectively highlight Multnomah County's commitment to a unified and efficient approach in addressing the needs of its community and maintaining public safety. The seamless coordination between various units exemplifies the one county approach by ensuring that services are delivered consistently, efficiently, and effectively across all of our sectors, thereby reinforcing the county's dedication to comprehensive public service and community well-being. Next slide, please. Our court services deputies attended over 5,300 court matters scheduled at the Central Courthouse this past year. The types of court events in our court services deputies manage vary and can be resource intensive, with considerations of charges, acuity, and protective custody status. Over the last year, approximately 580 trials were conducted, which required multiple corrections deputies to effectively address these considerations and ensure the safety of all who are present in court. Many trials are complex and lengthy, with large groups in attendance. Additionally, current restraint protocols require more personnel to attend to various court matters, which strain our limited staffing, highlighting the need for additional corrections deputies assigned to court services. Although we've made many successful operational changes to mitigate some of these challenges, such as leveraging technology and coordinated scheduling with court staff, the operational landscape continues to change. Next slide, please. Our logistics unit supports the agency operations with critical evidence custody and documentation for our divisions, along with fleet management and operations. Our logistics unit currently maintains and operates 248 vehicles, supporting various operations throughout the organization. This includes patrol and administration vehicles, transport vans, specialty units, boats, and off-road vehicles. Overall fleet health is a priority in logistics management to ensure vehicles are reliable, safe, and operational throughout their lifetime, as it directly affects public safety, personnel safety, response times, and the agency's overall stability. The MCSO logistics team works closely with County Fleet to ensure that our vehicles are routinely serviced to include engine performance, brakes, tires, and electronics as preventative maintenance techniques. Vehicle reliability is monitored to include the frequency of breakdowns or out-of-service incidents, as well as vehicle utilization, which consists of mileage tracking, idle time, and wear from operations. Additionally, the logistics team verifies safety readiness, ensuring emergency equipment functions properly, maintaining a life cycle balance by working to replace vehicles before they become cost inefficient. Thank you all, and I would now turn this over to Chief Deputy Lance Hemsworth.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Lance Hemsworth, Chief Deputy of the Law Enforcement Division. I'm pleased to be with you this morning to cover the great work that we are doing in our community. The Law Enforcement Division is comprised of the Patrol Operations, TriMet Transit Police, River Patrol Unit, Civil Unit, and the Investigations Unit. Throughout the year, MCSO worked with many focused initiatives with our local partners to include the Gresham Police Department, Portland Police Bureau, Oregon State Police, the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office, U.S. Marshals, and local businesses and community-based organizations. These initiatives were a proactive, multi-layered measure developed to address gun violence, drug use, traffic fatalities, retail theft, and stolen vehicles in our community, and to meet the need of the community-engaged policing. Next slide, please. I'll start by covering a few key funding changes in the upcoming fiscal year. For fiscal year 2027, the overall budget for the Law Enforcement Division increases by $4.5 million due to increasing labor costs. This budget includes 2 fewer FTE than in fiscal 2026 due to the loss of 2 deputy sheriff positions in this year's general fund allocation. Next slide, please. MCSO law enforcement broadly serves all people in Multnomah County. Operations are technically restricted to jurisdictional authority related to city, county, state, and federal government funding. As we know, people live, work, and enjoy various places throughout our county and state. A law enforcement interaction may take place at one location, but branch out to include several others. Public safety requires multi-agency responses and relationships to adequately meet the needs of the people in a timely manner. Our district map shown here illustrates the wide span MCSO law enforcement operations cover. Unincorporated Multnomah County in the far northwest corner is a mix of industrial and agricultural that includes Sauvie Island, while TriMet Transit Police is primarily in an inner urban city. Our contract cities of Fairview, Maywood Park, Troutdale, and Wood Village are small and residential. The largest and most sparsely populated service area in the east is the Columbia River Gorge, a vast scenic tourist destination for hiking and sightseeing, drawing millions of visitors each year. Since 2021, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office has led the TriMet Transit Police. We have worked closely with TriMet's leadership to support their safety response teams and outreach for strategies. In addition to managing this multi-agency law enforcement effort, MCSO assigns dedicated deputies to the TriMet Transit Police who carry out daily patrols, respond to calls for service, investigate crimes, and provide consistent on-the-ground engagement across the transit system while increasing public safety. TriMet's safety response team remains an important partner, offering high-visibility presence that helps create a welcoming environment for riders, provides basic staples and supplies to individuals for food, and addresses low-level livability issues previously directed to emergency services. Annually, we bring together partner agencies to report out progress toward reducing crime on the public transit system, encouraging our neighboring cities and counties to rejoin the partnership and set goals for the future. Next slide, please. This slide highlights 3 areas of law enforcement: the civil, investigations, and river patrol units that continue to see dramatic increases in work volume and mandated responses. MCSO has 2 deputies within the civil unit working as a team focused on connecting with our system partners to follow up with those served with protection orders to dispossess firearms. These dedicated resources facilitate the safe surrender of deadly weapons from those deemed at risk to themselves or others, preventing a lethal opportunity or future violence. These deputies face the dangerous and unpredictable nature of visiting a subject's home, places of work, or their family members in order to take action on court orders related to dispossessing firearms. In 2025, deputies seized 129 firearms and held an additional 380 firearms for safekeeping. The detective unit continues to do exceptional work for the limited number of FTE in the unit. MCSO detectives continually carry a large caseload while still responding to time-consuming critical events that can result in exhaustive hours of investigation. Over the past budget cycles, the MCSO has lost funding for detective positions investigating human trafficking, elder abuse, internet crimes against children, and child abuse. Our river patrol works across a span of 110 miles of waterways and addresses safe access to waterways for recreation, boater safety, derelict vessels, and dive team recovery. In 2025, River Patrol deputies responded to 992 calls for service on the waterway, which is a 35% increase from the year prior. The River Patrol unit spends many hours a year preparing for events such as escorting military ships from the Rose Festival, dragon boat races, Waterways of Oregon events, and Christmas ship parades, keeping our waterway users safe. River Patrol deputies continue to collaborate with Department of State Lands to address abandoned vessels and help clean up the waterways of unwanted boats. MCSO collaborated with the Department of State Lands throughout 2025 to remove 41 identified derelict vessels from the water. Deputies are encountering a growing number of homeless individuals who will inhabit abandoned vessels, creating small communities on the water. In 2025, River Patrol deputies recovered 26 bodies from the local waterways. These recoveries provide closure for families of the missing loved ones and support ongoing criminal investigations. We are extremely proud of the work by our deputies and what we've accomplished throughout the year. Next slide, please. The Law Enforcement Division remains deeply invested in data-driven approach to tracking crime trends and developing strategies to provide effective public safety services in our community. Just as important is ensuring that we arrive on scene in a timely manner. The graph shows that while non-emergency response times increased in the fiscal year, emergency response times decreased. As of January 1st, 2026, we changed the way that deputies are dispatched to calls for service to mirror our surrounding law enforcement agencies. The new dispatch criteria allows for lower priority calls for service, such as abandoned vehicles or lost property, to be self-dispatched over a mobile data computer rather than taking up valuable airtime on the police radio. MCSO law enforcement is committed to maintaining or reducing the time that it takes, on average, to respond to emergency and non-emergency calls for service, with an emphasis on reducing the top, or priority 1 and 2, emergency response. We are extremely proud of our deputies and the meaningful impact that we've made throughout the year. Thank you very much for your time today, and with that, I will turn it back over to the sheriff.
Thank you very much, Chiefs. As you've heard today, our organization is very large and complex, and we cover a multitude of public safety areas. And again, I am extremely proud of how our teams show up every single day, and I'm very proud of the work that we do. Next slide, please. I want to briefly highlight our involvement with county, state, and federal partners to monitor and advocate for proposed laws and funding that impact public safety. During this year's short session, we were tracking initiatives related to addressing standard uniform requirements and communication with federal partners, just to name a couple. The Sheriff's Office also continues to monitor potential policy and funding impacts related to federal rules and executive orders. Some of these will be related to pass-through programs managed by the state of Oregon, and others may be directly from the federal administration to MCSO. Next slide, please. As we close, I want to start with what matters most. The protection of our community depends on dedicated professionals who are willing to risk their personal safety in service to all of us. This work is dangerous and demanding, but also very rewarding and honorable. I am proud to lead this organization, and I'm proud of all of our members who show up every day to protect and support our communities and who value serving others. At the same time, we must acknowledge that the burden placed on those very people when our public safety system is under-resourced. Public safety is a system, and when any part is strained or reduced, whether it's the Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney's Office, Department of Community Justice, or our other partners, that pressure is felt across the entire system, impacting our ability to deliver the level of safety that every family in Multnomah County relies upon and expects. I do acknowledge the board's investments and the efforts over the last few years to limit reductions to the Sheriff's Office. And at the same time, it is also important to reiterate that the future of public safety and the challenges that lie ahead, particularly around jail capacity, staffing, and facilities. As we continue to manage current system constraints, we're also evaluating future options and conversations that we will be having, which may include funding for additional budget at FTE to increase jail capacity and operational flexibility, sharing information with system partners so there is a pretrial system that is effective and aligned with available resources, but we also need to consider the potential increases in jail usage and the impacts to individuals awaiting adjudication if a program that is moving forward is not utilized. Working with the board to advance our one-time only funding request to continue to work with a consultant to evaluate the consolidation and modernization of 2 aging jail facilities. This has been identified in multiple corrections grand jury reports. Added deputy sheriff and corrections positions to fulfill our operational responsibilities across our corrections facilities, court services, investigations, and civil process. Additionally, we've talked about focusing on our core mandated services. As we face budget constraints, the innovative approach and the preventative programs like the HOPE team are often the first to be lost. This leaves us operating in a mandate-driven model that is strained to meet even the immediate requirements and does fall short of our long-term goals of reducing harm and recidivism and building community trust, truly helping people in our community feel safe. I have lived and worked in Multnomah County for nearly 30 years, and I'm proud to call Multnomah County home. As we move forward, we cannot afford greater loss of public trust when it comes to safety in our community. If we do, we risk our recovery and our social and economic vitality. We cannot build affordable housing, open and support businesses, or revitalize our downtown if our work in public safety becomes unreliable or unresponsive. With that, I want to thank the board for your continued support and your partnership. The work that our members do every day is critical to the safety and stability of this community, and your investment in that work does make a true difference. I look forward to continuing our work together as we meet the needs of today and the needs of the future. Next slide. Thank you, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you all very much. We've got about 22 minutes for questions before noon, and again, we can ask the sheriff and her team to come back on Thursday if we have additional follow-up or additional questions.
Okay. I'm just thinking about something you referenced early in the presentation, which is, I don't want to misquote, but it had to do with the complexity of the issues that individuals who are being held in jail are experiencing. Do you have any information that shows kind of a trend of the percentage of individuals who are, presenting with active substance use disorder or mental illness or whatever the acuity is, so we can kind of see that? And then also, I know that you have units that are focused on some of those needs, and I don't know if you have a breakdown of if there's any cost differential of those units versus general population units, just to get a sense of how the complex needs of individuals are driving resources would be really helpful.
Absolutely. So first, just to talk about the resources assigned to our facilities to manage each unit. That staffing model has been in place nearly exactly the same since I was hired in the 90s. It was highlighted in our National Institute of Corrections report to build a staffing model that meets the needs based on classification and the support that individuals need that are in our custody. When you look at some information that I did recently receive from Corrections Health, they would be better positioned also to provide the global picture. But the individuals, or the percentage of individuals that are engaged in mental health services, that is engaged in them, is about 28%. And additionally, with substance use disorder treatment, those that are engaged, about 22%. That does not account for people that are not engaging in some form of treatment, and we're working closely with Corrections Health through our leadership teams to be able to have a better idea of how we best support the individuals in our custody.
Thank you.
Yeah, just have a few questions. First question is in regards to the HOPE team. Since the proposed is eliminating the HOPE team, are they being reassigned, the folks that are currently on the HOPE team, are they being reassigned to strictly patrol?
So as we were developing this budget process, I have been evaluating where the resources need to support the need and the mandated services of the Sheriff's Office. And as everyone has experienced, we have very tough decisions to make. And we were seeing some challenges with respect to our investigative roles and civil process, serving protection orders and investigating crimes. So the original proposal was to reallocate, so close the HOPE team and move that funding into those two areas. However, to meet the constraint this year, the HOPE team is being reduced, and those individuals will be reassigned to patrol or if they apply for a specialty unit that has a vacancy.
Yeah, great. And then the same question for the folks that are on Close Street. Are they being reassigned as well internally to other functions? And if so, where?
Yes, again, looking at the mandated services, the responsibility of operating jails, those individuals will be moving back into their corrections deputy role assigned to the facilities.
I think when we have a plan for how to appropriately transition, because that's the piece that's still missing, right, is the transition planning for pretrial.
A couple questions. Thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate the CBAC's work on this, and also the grand jury report, which I know for the participants in the corrections grand jury, it's not just like a 1-hour assignment. So I really appreciate those coming forward. For me, it always informs my work. I also really appreciate, I know when I first got on the commission, the vacancy rate and the need to fill that was top of mind. And we had amendments, some that I offered, some that the rest of the commission offered to restaff or rebuild the staffing. So I appreciate seeing that happening, and I also appreciate the HR teams, central HR teams' work to support the sheriff's office. The question I'm probably going to ask everyone, your constraint was 5%. Where did you end up?
We had a $3 million reduction. As you are aware, it's extremely complicated when the general fund, the 1145 was into the general fund. So I believe it was about a 1.5.
Like a 1.5%.
Anything to add?
Oh, for the total reduction? Sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, it's complicated. We had some spicy moves this year. I blame Christian and Jeff more than anyone else, but we had a reduction of the Close Street program is about 2.4. Sorry, that's not a technical term. We had a reduction of the Close Street, it's about 2.4, and then we had another 500,000 on top of that. That's those deputy sheriff reductions, so in the neighborhood of $3 million. But then we did receive funding for those 3 HR positions, and then we had the funding backfill from the general fund for the 1.5 for 1145. So a lot of moving pieces.
But approximately how much did you, the percent that you landed on?
The cut would be about $3 million, and then the add back for those two would be about 1.5. So about
1.5%, okay. And then I want to thank the deputies who toured.
No, 1.5 million.
Yes.
1.5 million. What's the percentage?
It's like 1%.
Yeah, that's about right.
Thank you.
The chair's got the math work.
I want to thank the deputies who toured myself and Commissioner John Sixon through the East County Courthouse, and then also the tour that I had through the MCDC, which is not, at least I'm not sure what you call that place, that is, the place that's not usually on our corrections tour, but the court services, kind of what is that called?
At the courthouse, our court services unit that is responsible for ensuring adults in custody are at their court hearing.
What's that sort of mini jail that is in the bigger jail?
That is our court holding to facilitate.
Court holding. So I appreciate that, because that's not something I've seen before. And having heard from judges and others that the lack of staffing for that unit really impacts the efficiency and the effectiveness of court operations. I'm just confirming that you had asked for that, but there's no additional funds in this budget?
Yes, as we were preparing this budget, we'd been working with the courts for about 2 to 3 years on creating efficiencies to assist in ensuring that matters could be conducted on time. And I think both parties, us and the courts, came together and we were able to create efficiencies, and you could see the difference. However, as we moved from the old courthouse into the new courthouse, there wasn't a new staffing model developed for the size of the courthouse, the emergency response, and recognizing we're coming out of a pandemic, I think it was unpredictable court matters and what resources would be needed to facilitate bringing an adult in custody into a court hearing and ensuring the safety of everyone. So we are continuing to see delays there, as you heard from the courts yesterday. And we did submit a request through this budget process, and that was not funded.
Okay, thank you. I want to just briefly go back to your statement about the interconnectedness of the public safety system. And as we heard yesterday at Lipsick, just across the board, many reductions, which have impacts, reductions everywhere at the city, the cities, the county, are impacting other parts of the system. Every morning I get the report of what the capacity is at the 2 jail facilities. So to clarify, the 2 main ways that you can manage capacities are either limiting booking or through emergency jail releases.
Yes, so the 2, it's detailed in our capacity management plan that is a board resolution and a shared responsibility. The 2 main ways that we've been managing this, or the single way at this point, is that there are times where we limit charges acceptable for booking. And as I said before, that impacts our law enforcement partners and the work that they're doing in our community. And as we continue to see increases, I will say the jail population has been very unpredictable over the last couple of years. If we reach 95%, then we will be emergency or forced releasing individuals from our custody.
And generally, those are individuals who a Multnomah County judge felt during arraignment that were not appropriate for release?
Correct.
Many are released generally through the arraignment process?
Yes, they have all been through the arraignment process, and a judge has not offered a release option at that time.
So the emergency release plan it's sort of automatic. Doesn't require the commission to vote on it. There's a process by which the emergency release happens, and it's matrixed, and you're releasing, the system is releasing an individual who the judges said during the arraignment process should be held for community safety reasons or for a variety of other reasons. So those are the people, most of those people, they're not individuals being held on misdemeanors generally, they're felony.
It could be misdemeanors, but I want to reiterate that this is all of our processes and how we would manage a population emergency are detailed in the capacity management plan, which was a board resolution and a shared responsibility of us.
Okay, I'll have some more questions later. In the meantime, I want to introduce a budget note. I'm just going to read what the budget note is. The 2025 grand jury report identified as the #1 report recommendation, updating and commissioning a Multnomah County Sheriff's Office post-factor staffing study. The last staffing study was completed in 2006, leaving the county without a modern assessment of what is needed today. The Sheriff's Office has been impacted by years-long staffing shortages due to compounding factors, including retirements, maintaining aging facilities, additional regulations and training requirements, transport and security requirements continue to affect operations at Multnomah County jails, Inverness, and the detention center. The resulting impacts are unsustainable and untenable, overly relying on mandatory releases to fill staffing gaps, closing and limiting bookings, reducing and closing dorms that impact adults in custody by limiting out-of-cell time, limiting visitation time and time with legal counsel, and canceled hearings due to transport delays all negatively impact the justice system and community safety. This budget note builds on efforts to increase recruitment and retention and track overall staffing by requesting that the Sheriff's Office commission a comprehensive post-factor staffing study that evaluates MCSO organizational structure, including staffing, operations, and workload demands to provide insight, guidance, and recommendations on performing critical functions and providing core services. I have another amendment, but it's unrelated to this, so I'll wait till after this is completed, and then I'll just briefly introduce it before we adjourn. Thanks.
So I don't have additional questions for you all. I just also want to appreciate, Sheriff, both your time and Chief Deputy Reardon, your time in trying to figure out a way forward on the pretrial services. I know we're not there yet, but we're close. But just wanted to appreciate your honesty and your transparency so we could understand what is currently happening, what a future state could look like, and I feel like we're on a really good path. So thanks for coming to some extra meetings on that.
Of course.
All right, yeah, okay, great. I just appreciate you. I will say that appreciate the work of the CBAC as well. I think I don't know if they're still here. Oh, there you are, hello. Thanks for this. And it doesn't sound like we're going to have you back on Thursday. So I think
we should,
we can hold.
I want to put an asterisk because I didn't ask some questions, just thinking that was a possibility, so I want to reserve the right. I could always ask you directly, so.
Please be on standby for Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, per the usual.
Yeah. We do have a few minutes left if you wanted to at least ask them so they could be prepared for Thursday.
I'll just submit the questions.
Okay. Okay.
I got a follow-up.
You do have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Although I am wildly impressed with your management to staff ratio, I think it is probably the best department management to staff ratio of any department within the county. I did notice that you're adding 3 executive or management level positions while eliminating 12 represented workers. I just would like to understand the thought process that went into that. And I'm specifically looking at appendix slide, oh God, I just screwed it up. 53. So you don't have to answer that now, but if you're coming back, I just want to understand why adding management and losing frontline. Yeah, I could have shared mine. You really don't have to answer this right now if you're coming back.
This is really fun. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Yeah, I won't go into decision-making because that's out of my depth, but just to go into the process here, yeah, the loss of the 7 corrections deputy positions that are represented is from the Close Street closure. And then the loss of the other 2 represented positions is from the deputy sheriffs for the HOPE team. Maybe we can come back on the management positions.
They don't have, yeah, do those programs not have managers?
Those are our supervisor positions, not related to those programs. So we can come back on that and give you the breakdown.
Okay. Thanks. Don't worry, I'm going to ask every department that.
Okay, I think we are, oh, you still?
I have one more amendment. It's unrelated.
Right, so I was going to let them go. So thank you so much for all the great information today, and just appreciate that. And yes, and then we'll let you know if we need you back on Thursday. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it.
So I will have some other amendments related to the district attorney's office. I already laid one down already around the legal assistance, which was one of the recommendations from the Community Budget Advisory Commission, so I'll be bringing some of those back. In the meantime, I have an amendment that's unrelated to either the public safety budgets today, and this relates to the chair's budgets proposing closing about 690 shelter beds, and with the many of them scheduled to close at the end of this fiscal year, and then also sort of a second tranche closing 2 months after that time period. So this amendment would, and I'm just going to read it, this amendment is budget neutral and moves a minimum of $1 million of the $10 million in added one-time general funds for general rapid rehousing to adequately fund person-level transition plan for every person in shelters that are being closed through housing placements and shelter beds and not being sent back into the streets and into our neighborhoods. Further, the county must articulate how it will prevent any current shelter participant from returning to unsheltered homelessness by developing and sharing a detailed person-level transition plan for all individuals affected by the budget potential shelter closures and account for the operational and financial impacts on community-based shelter providers and deliver that plan to the Board of County Commissioners. So it moves a minimum of $1 million of one-time general funds from Homeless Services Department program Offer 30302B, housing placement and retention, additional placement at a shelter, to HSD program number 30200B, safety off the streets, shelter ramp down.
So this is in addition to the $1.8 million already in the budget for shelter transition?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand some of that, the shelter transition actually comes out of the providers' provisions. We can discuss it more when we get to the housing. The reason, I know we're going to hear in the next couple of weeks from the Homeless Services Department, there is high level of anxiety about the lack of a person-level transition plan and what impact that's going to have on other shelters, whether people are going to be returning to the streets. So this is designed to drive us getting a plan and having the resources to support that.
I will just share for the commissioner's awareness that I have already submitted paperwork for a budget modification to allocate additional dollars to shelter transition, so I'm not sure which agenda it's on, but you all should be seeing that shortly, and it's $1 million that providers are saying they need this year, so maybe we can talk more about it then when that budget modification comes forward in a couple
I'm
of
sorry,
days.
but that's not actually, we actually don't have that before us.
It is, I've already submitted the paperwork for it, I'm saying, because that's just not something that you all have seen yet, and so I wanted you to be aware that that's coming.
And that's from this fiscal year?
Correct.
Okay, any other amendments or budget notes? Great. Okay, thanks everyone for great work today. That concludes today's budget work session. Our next meeting will be the budget work session number 4, scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, April 29th at 1 p.m. We do have our joint session this afternoon with City Council over at the City Hall that will start at 1 p.m. today. So we'll see many of you there. With that, we are adjourned.